You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have him present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questioning if you wish. You can decide at any time to exercise these rights and not answer any questions or make any statements. Do you understand each of these rights I have explained to you?
Rappers aren't exactly known for being the most normal or sane, but most fans still don't think of them as crazy. Despite that, over the years, there have been some outright wild things that rappers have done that no fan could have expected. I'm Rashad Bashir, and this is rap's most disturbing moments caught on camera. In 2020, a Reddit user by the name of not_tables started an AMA, Ask Me Anything thread. In this post, the user posted the following message: I've decided to do an AMA to answer any questions I could about Jahseh, members only, and the musical culture shift caused by Florida hip-hop. Feel free to ask anything you want and I will answer honestly. But what does this Reddit post have to do with this video? Well, if you don't know, the name Jahseh is actually the name of the beloved rapper, the late XXXTentacion. Rest in peace. And the post was made by X's former manager, Tables. At first glance, there was nothing really disturbing about the initial post, but what grabbed the attention of the Reddit community was a particular comment posted by Tables, and this is where things took a turn from a calm AMA to a disturbing revelation. But let's back up a little. Specifically, let's back up 8 years, back to 2016, when a certain video was released to the public. This video showed a young XXXTentacion in an interrogation room with 2 police officers. At the start of this interrogation, X appeared to have zero idea of why he was getting questioned.
First thing I want to ask before, am I being put under arrest, or is this just like you guys question you?
Yeah, well, I want to ask you questions about something that happened, alright?
The interrogation proceedings between X and the police started off pretty tame.
Your Miami thing? Dolphins?
Miami Dolphins? Yeah, I used to be when they had, can't remember his name. He was like really long dreads.
You're talking about the running back?
Yeah, he was running back.
The officer even responded casually to X, further adding to the conversation about being a fan of a different NFL team.
Yeah, I'm a Jaguars fan. We need you seriously.
For anyone wondering what this information is all about, what the officer was trying to do was to strategically establish a working rapport between him and XXXTentacion. Interrogation procedures usually begin with the cop trying to create a casual back and forth communication between them and the suspect to get them to start talking. What we just saw was an officer trying to encourage X to be relaxed and enter a state of cooperative talking. And well, the officer's plan worked.
Basketball?
Basketball, I like rock just because why? January is hard.
So you just following him around wherever you go? You're a bandwagoner?
However, behind this cordial conversation lied a mysterious incident that the officer was trying to uncover. A mystery that is equally disturbing and tragic, as we will eventually discover. At this point, as soon as the interrogating officer felt that he had gotten X's cooperation, things slowly became a little less cordial and a little bit more serious.
How long you lived in Broward?
Pretty much all of it. I really started my career.
Okay. Which is rapping? Yeah. Cool.
And as the conversation shifted into XXXTentacion's career, things started to pick up, although X still didn't fully understand the trap that the police officer was setting up against him.
How long you been rapping?
The officer even tried to patronize X, although it sounded like a complete lie.
How do you say your rap name?
The question was, what exactly was the officer trying to get to? But let's not get too ahead of ourselves, as we have yet to understand exactly just why X was being interrogated. Fortunately for us, we're about to find out, because this is the point where we, together with X, discover the seriousness of the matter at hand.
I want to talk to you about what you're here for. Obviously, you're handcuffed, so I just have to read it right. You know how it goes. And then I can tell you what you're here for and talk about that.
The thing is, I've never been arrested for anything, nor have I been questioned by the cops. But even I know that when a police officer tells you that he's about to read your rights, you know things are about to go down.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything will be used in court as evidence against you. You're entitled to talk to an attorney now and have him present now or at any time during questioning. If you cannot afford an attorney, one will be appointed for you without cost.
Obviously, in America, it's standard procedure for the police to read civilians their Miranda rights, especially during interrogation procedures. However, at this point, I have to remind you that X was around 18 years old. And while this doesn't strictly imply that X was naive, it should be noted that being as young as X was at the time, his inexperience was bound to make him rash and impulsive. And that's exactly what happened next.
Before we go, I would like to tell you, but I don't want to hear you go do this.
Okay. Alright, but I mean, it's one or the other, man. I can't,
You say you want an attorney? But I want to hear you guys.
As alarming as it sounded, it really wasn't surprising that X didn't immediately try and get an attorney. However, officers still tried to give X a chance to change his mind.
We can tell you what you're being charged with, but as far as like a fishing expedition, doesn't really work like that. But I don't want to like, well, you got 1 hour per hour.
The problem was, X wasn't able to take a hit, and we'll find out later how badly X messed up by not getting a lawyer.
Warned about for what? I think home invasion and aggravated battery.
And obviously, X didn't take those wild accusations well. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Remember the Reddit thread I mentioned? That thread comes into play here. As we mentioned, Tables, the guy who created the Reddit AMA thread, was XXXTentacion's former manager. Specifically, Tables managed X in 2015 when he was very underground. However, X and his manager-artist relationship would only last up until 2016. And this is the part that is both disturbing and tragic, as we're about to find out exactly why an 18-year-old XXXTentacion was being questioned and cornered by these police officers, as well as discover why Tables and X's working relationship only lasted less than a year. In the Reddit thread in question, Tables shed light on an incident that I can only describe as horrifying. In the comments section, Tables stated the following. It's a long story, but I'll try to simplify and make it easy to understand. He, pertaining to XXXTentacion, knocked on my door. When I opened it, 6 people rushed in. X and I got into a verbal altercation over the money. I was mad too because I didn't do what I was being accused of. Apparently, XXXTentacion was trying to get money from monetized playbacks of his music that he felt Tables allegedly stole from him. But it got worse, as Tables would continue to explain in his post, stating, I offered to show X my computer so he could see all the numbers. He didn't want to hear it. He grabbed a knife in my kitchen and said, what if I you? Would you still be stealing my money? He was in the air in front of me, backing me down the hallway. And this was the incident that led to X getting arrested and interrogated. However, while Tables' candid retelling of the events gave some truly disturbing details that shed a horrible light on X's mental state during that moment, X had a completely different take on the entire incident. And his version of the story was also a bit messed up. So going back to X's interrogation, X was visibly rattled after the officers accused him of some serious crimes he had allegedly committed to his former manager. But X believed that he could prove his innocence, despite stern reminders from the police that his own words might backfire on him. However, X obliged.
If I answer your questions correctly, am I good? I don't understand your question. No, I'm saying, bro, if I answer whatever you ask me.
Nevertheless, the interrogator did all he could do to stop X from completely incriminating himself without guidance from his attorney, as the officers knew that also affected how the case might go.
Here's the thing, if you want your attorney present, that's fine, that's 100% within your rights, but at that point, because we're not going to go wait for an attorney to show up and stuff like that, at that point you just kind of go to jail.
And this back and forth of trying to convince X to call for his attorney went on for over 5 minutes. But despite how many times the police reiterated X's rights to either stay silent and call for his attorney, X was confident that he could outsmart them. Throughout the back and forth, X was trying to negotiate his cooperation with the officers and the chances of him not going to jail depending on what he says. Eventually, X's inexperience in dealing with this kind of situation, as well as his own impatience, got the best of him, and well, the officers eventually got him to talk.
Well, that's what we're trying to figure everything out. So, y'all grew up in Broward together?
Yes.
Okay. And y'all rap together? I heard some of your songs. Okay.
I used to live up here with my manager, Tables.
Oh, okay. What's your manager's name?
Tables.
Tables. Okay.
And just like that, XXXTentacion finally took the officer's bait. X mentioned that he used to work with a man named Tables, who served as his former manager. However, what X did not know was that, up to that point in the interrogation, police officers already knew whatever it was that happened, allegedly, to Tables. Regardless, it was up to the officers to piece things together depending on how X was willing to cooperate, and clearly, he was. But in the middle of discussing the details, something very odd happened. While trying to explain his side of the story, X sensed that something was wrong, and he slowly realized what was actually going on.
Yeah, so what, y'all hang out? What's up?
I already know.
What's up?
X suddenly became aware of the situation since the officers brought up Tables. But as we've established, X was determined to prove that he was innocent. Except despite his wishes, unfortunately, the interrogation was about to go from disturbing to intense, as X responded with rage, despite the officers not even mentioning anything about Tables other than his name. And X would only make it worse.
I know he owed you some money over iTunes.
Yes.
How much? Like
Over $1,000.
over $1,000. And he owed.
He has been robbing me and my friend out of our money.
Have y'all been filed a police report or anything yet?
No, I didn't, bro. I didn't know it was gonna get this serious.
Yeah.
He got me arrested saying I robbed him.
Yeah.
At the time, it sounded reasonable that X reacted the way he did. But in hindsight, knowing the real situation behind this interrogation further made XXXTentacion's answers that much more disturbing. But X would take things to another level. See, he really did not like Tables. Whether it was because he thought Tables stole money from him, or because X thought Tables was weird, the way X talked about Tables during that interrogation proved that X loathed him. And he was out to prove that whatever it was Tables went through was quote-unquote justified. Which of course, only made X's case less credible.
Like, bro, this is gonna sound crazy, but like, understand that I have no reason why I'm saying true. Bro, my manager's like a porn star, basically. So, like, he booked me for a porn star scene because we have a thing called Fruit Plus, which is like, where you basically like professional porn stars say like they're groupies, like big groupies. So,
X even accused Tables of being an adult star and being a pimp for his artists. Keep in mind, while all of this was going on, the police officers already knew what happened to Tables, and they were just trying to uncover exactly what X's part was in it. However, this is where X tried to tell his version.
my best friend linked with him, so all of that, my best friend at the time, so stayed with Tables. And me and him were arguing. Well, me and him were talking to each other because he was staying there.
Right.
Like I said, I don't know Tables, like, I like him. So I can kind of get what's going on.
Yeah.
But no, basically, Ski was staying with Tables, and I had already moved out.
The friend that X was talking about was another rapper named Ski Mask the Slump God, who was also managed by Tables at the time.
He hits me up. Like one day I was like, yo, Tables stole my money, bro.
So let's pause for a bit and gather everything that X, Tables, and the officers have given us. Because at this point in the story, number 1, we know that Tables was X's former manager. 2, we know that X threatened Tables with over money issues with him and Ski Mask. 3, we know that X really did not like Tables. 4, we know that something serious happened to Tables and that the police officers knew about it. And 5, we know that somehow the officers were trying to uncover whether or not X had something to do with what happened to Tables, as well as what X's part was in it. And luckily for us, we're about to find out.
I went over there to add Tables. I was like, bro, what's up? Like, you were fighting. Like, this part.
Yup, X just admitted he was actually there at the crime scene. And the next part just further worsened X's credibility in the eyes of the officers.
And then he was like, no, bro. He's like, because I think convinced him that he is. But he said, no, bro. He's like, bro, it's just he being crazy. He's been doing shit. I told him to go to the store to go get my money to bring it to me, and he only comes back with chips. He was like, bro, where's my $300, bro? So then he told me like, yo, I'm gonna clear it. Like, I'm gonna leave.
If you noticed it, there was something that X omitted in his story, and the officers tried to make X slip up and admit what he forgot to mention.
Okay. Something that we stole from him?
I mean, X just couldn't keep his mouth shut.
Well, that's what I'm trying to figure out. Now I understand he owed you money, right?
Yes.
So, the laptop, was that y'all trying to get it in order to hold it until he paid you back?
And it was at this point in the interrogation video that X probably regretted bringing it up.
How did his laptop get taken?
That silence from X spoke volumes. X then, in a desperate move, tried to accuse the officer of saying that he stole Tables' laptop.
Bro, you check my bag, man. Like, I have $1,000 left, bro. If you
Unfortunately for X, this was the point where officers revealed to him that they already knew that X had lied to them, and you're probably wondering what exactly happened to Tables. Well, let's go back to Tables' Reddit thread for a while. Remember, according to his post, X went to Tables' house to confront him. According to the victim, X grabbed a nut and walked him down a hallway while asking, "What if would you still be stealing my money?" And the bad news for Tables at the time was that X had made up his mind even before talking to him and confirming whether he did steal from them or not. Tables stated that X eventually cornered him. And the word disturbing does not even begin to explain how Tables described what X did to him. His injuries from the incident were so horrible that Tables had to get major reconstructive surgery as his organs shifted out of place. Tables stated that he miraculously made it out alive despite the injuries he sustained from what X did, adding that, "The doctor told me a centimeter up, left or right, I would have not made it before I made it to the hospital." That's just messed up to say the least. So going back to the interrogation, the officer established that it was time for X to stop hiding the truth.
Tables ended up in the hospital, right? And all we got right now is that you went in there and that you grabbed his knife.
In that moment, X knew the jig was up, and the next scene showed how X realized how much he messed up.
And that with I got someone just listen to me with
I told you this interrogation was disturbing. Realizing how badly he messed up and not wanting to go to prison for what happened to Tables, X tried to tell a different story. X backpedaled to admit that he did rob him, implying that he didn't do anything more than that, but at that point, it was already too late. Nevertheless, with X already understanding that he was caught red-handed with Tables' hospitalization, since he did admit that he confronted Tables, all X could have done was damage control. And that's exactly what he did. The first thing X did to alleviate the situation, if that was even possible, was to again justify his actions against Tables. And since X was already cornered, he did what most people in a situation would do: attack Tables' character.
He has a very bad reputation. Very bad reputation. Like, so I remember when, like, there was days where, like, I was my whole social stage and...
But aside from bringing up Tables' troubled issues with illegal substance abuse, another disturbing part about the interrogation happened when XXXTentacion brought up a girl who Tables was involved with.
There was a girl named Danielle that used to come here. She goes to, she went to wholesale with him. Come to find out, he was in love with her. On his bed.
And while it was kind of weird to bring up a story about a girl who Tables was supposedly in love with, X had an idea on how to connect the dots to justify his actions against his former manager.
Meanwhile, while she lied to me, right? So I wasn't aware that he quote unquote was in love with her and that he got rejected by her. And then, like, here's where I started to notice, like, a twist.
In X's mind, if he could implicate Tables to being jealous of him, he could convince the interrogators that his actions were justified. And this was when X went to work.
After these situations happened, he told the same girl, like, he told her, like, yo, X doesn't care about you, he's been fucking behind your back, you know? And, like, he's not good for you, he doesn't care about you.
Bringing up a girl in this incident between him, Tables, and another was weird enough, but using this as an excuse to hurt someone to the point where they almost didn't make it was a different kind of disturbed.
I found out because the girl that she was in love with came back to me and, like, had an argument with me. So I told him I initially was going to fight him.
However, out of nowhere, X went from justifying his actions.
I started to get weird.
Yeah.
And when I say weird, like, I mean get weird. Like, the obsession with that girl, like, and here's where it's going to all link.
To once again proving his innocence while bargaining his own case with the officer.
If I can prove my innocence, bro, I'll take you to the house. Please, at least give me that chance, bro. Because I have to prove that I'm innocent, bro. I'll take you to her house and show you and have you speak to her and approve of the fact that is weird.
And as if this interrogation couldn't get more chaotic, X lets out a statement that was not only disturbing, but outright self-incriminating.
What happened to him? He had that shit coming, bro. That shit, bro. Like, real, like, there was a point where I wanted to know.
And eventually, the officer had enough of X's convoluted explanation.
Okay, well, I'm trying to figure out what happened that day. Alright, so how did he end up in the hospital? You told me earlier that you just went there one time. I'm done with the bull.
At this moment, it was clear to XXXTentacion that he really should have gotten an attorney in the first place, but he knew it was already too late. This led to an intense outburst from X.
I've been fucked over in this situation before, bro. I have no reason to lie, bro.
He was in the hospital for 5 days.
Okay, fine. Fuck that nigga, bro. I'm telling you guys, it's crazy, bro. That nigga is crazy. Why the fuck? Bro, if I did anything to anybody, why would I talk to y'all? I know my rights. I know that. Shut the fuck up.
However, despite the understandable outbursts from X, the officers still did not have the actual answer that they needed. Despite the convoluted stories about the inconsistencies in X's stories and explanations, all they really had were various situations that showed X's motivation. But they knew it wasn't enough to pin him to the tables incident. And so, with the interrogator feeling that he was close to busting X, he pushed X's buttons even more.
Then how do you get that?
I don't f***ing know. He had it coming, bro. He had it coming, literally, bro. Fuck that nigga, bro. I'm over the thing.
Unfortunately, he didn't manage to get X to fully confess, as X didn't mention anything about the incident. But what was really messed up was the fact that despite never admitting to his crimes, X kept repeating the same disturbing line throughout the half of the interrogation.
Basically, like, I don't know what happened, bro, to him, bro. And then, like I said, I'm happy. I'm glad it happened to him because him.
I don't know. It's just a bit creepy to hear someone say they're happy that someone got hurt so badly that they had their... I can't even go into any detail, unfortunately, as to what happened to Tables, because this is YouTube, but it wasn't pretty. And after spending over 35 minutes trying to go back and forth to let XXXTentacion confess to what he did, the officer showed X the ace that the police had up their sleeves against him.
Alright, well, here's the thing, man. He's known you for a while. He picked you out of the lineup with no hesitation. Do you know what aggravated battery is? Okay, it's purposely and willfully inflicting great bodily injury to someone, right? So, all that I have right now is...
And since X refused to stay silent despite not having his lawyer present, the officers warned X that he was indeed in trouble since Tables implicitly picked him out very quickly with zero hesitation and said that X would try to him. Tables even gave the investigators a near accurate description of XXXTentacion. In the police report, Tables, whose real name was Dylan Turner, described Jose Onfroy as a black male, 18 years old from Broward County with half blonde, half black short hair, standing 5'6" tall, 150 pounds to 160 pounds, short, stocky build, cracked, heart tattoo, you get it. He basically described X down to a T. Yeah, sadly for X, being personally implicated by the victim, combined with convoluted stories, as well as him repeating his motivations and intentions against Tables, there was nothing more that X could have done to prove his innocence. And the officer knew it was time to stop playing around.
I know that you were there, so if you're gonna keep telling me that
I told you I was there the first time, bro. Why the fuck?
I'm talking about when he got stabbed. Alright?
I wasn't there.
If you keep going with this story, you're gonna end up getting charged with that, man. You're gonna end up getting charged with...
And so, with the officer feeling like he had gotten all the information that he needed from the interrogation, as well as to de-escalate the situation and calm X down, as X had gone extremely aggressive, the interrogator left the room. However, after nearly 10 minutes, the officers came back into the interrogation room. And now, this time, XXXTentacion, given all the time to think about what he did, eventually changed his mind.
This is gonna go nowhere but down, and there's no way for me to not incriminate myself. I want the lawyer for this. If you guys are actually gonna understand what I'm trying to say to you.
I mean, I'm not much of an expert on situations like this, but that probably should have been what X's first move was. Lucky for X, he was released shortly after the interrogation. But what about Tables? Well, fortunately for both of them, Tables made a full recovery for his injury. Surprisingly enough, despite all the animosity between them, and despite the horrific things that X said and did, Tables actually dropped the charges against X. In a text message, X told Tables, "Thank you for dropping the charges. As messed up as the situation is, I am forever in your debt." No kidding, and big emphasis on I am forever in your debt. Later on, X would also pay for Tables' medical bills, but keep in mind, if X was convicted, this would have already been taken care of. What was even more surprising was just how kind and forgiving Tables was to X, as not only did he drop the charges, but he sent a heartfelt reply to X. "I dropped the charges because at the end of the day, you're a brother to me and I got a lot of love for you. You didn't deserve to rot in jail and lose everything you built over one bad decision." Not gonna lie, personally, I wouldn't have been as forgiving to someone who was responsible for me having almost met my end, but it's great that the two ended up patching things up, especially since we now know what happened to XXXTentacion almost 2 years after this incident, as well as the fact that Tables passed away as well in 2022. But still, nothing changes the fact that the entire interrogation scene was truly one of the most disturbing moments in rap caught on camera. Sadly, our next disturbing moment also has some tragic and heartbreaking undertones, as we're talking about the disturbing video of Quavo and the late and great Takeoff shooting dice before it all went south. But first, let's set the stage for this incident that would more or less shake the hip-hop industry in more ways than one. It was around 2 a.m. Takeoff, Quavo, and their entourage were hanging out with some people, some of which were from the mob ties, as well as some affiliates of J. Prince Jr. Images and videos from this incident suggested that Quavo was shooting dice with members from J. Prince's crew, while Takeoff was quietly watching at a distance. The ironic part about this was that Takeoff was simply minding his own business, happy to be in the background watching his uncle. The night was destined to be a promising and enjoyable celebration for Quavo and Takeoff, not only for the success of their latest album, but also to cement the fact that they could be as successful as a duo. And as everything appeared to be going well for Quavo, who was enjoying shooting dice while Takeoff quietly watched, things were about to go from a fun night out to a tragic moment in just one quick turn.
Please want to check out 22B23 1212 Grand Plaza for discharging firearms.
According to eyewitnesses present at the incident, an argument had started between Quavo and some people he was shooting dice with due to some money issues. At first, it was a simple verbal disagreement. But the thing is, when you combine alcohol, gambling, money, some high-profile people, and some gang members all together, disaster is simply bound to happen one way or another. And that's exactly what happened next. It was reported that around 2:30 a.m., the Migos crew and the other group of people headed outside the venue, and this was when things escalated. In a video uploaded by TMZ, someone from J. Prince's crew can be heard verbally arguing with Quavo. And while this was all going on, Takeoff was watching carefully as a bystander. As seen in this disturbing photo, Takeoff could be seen blending in with the crowd, monitoring everything that was going on. Takeoff also probably thought that it was all a simple misunderstanding caused by high tensions and competitive spirits. And once you add the fact that the Migos were supposed to be kept safe and protected by J. Prince Jr.'s crew, it makes sense that Takeoff probably assumed that nothing bad was going to happen. Sadly, we all know what transpired. Nevertheless, with tensions flaring high, alcohol in their bloodstream, allegedly, and their egos and street cred on the line, it was only a matter of time before things would get out of control. And while Takeoff was watching from a distance, Quavo could be seen heard in the video saying something ominous that would end up becoming the last words his nephew would ever hear. After that, all hell broke loose, but only a mere second after the altercation began, the situation went from dangerous to deadly, as gunshots followed. Sadly, while Quavo's intentions for saying what he said aimed to de-escalate the situation by attempting to leave the tense scene before things turned sour, the people he was arguing with had a different goal in mind, and unfortunately for the Migos, Takeoff, who was carefully watching from a distance, would get caught in the crossfire. What was even more disturbing about all of this was that, despite Takeoff just minding his own business and trying to safely distance himself, he was the one who actually got in trouble. In this haunting audio, you could hear Quavo scrambling while trying to call for help. But it was too late. Takeoff, honestly one of the most underrated rappers from the last decade, had been taken from this earth abruptly that night.
Police say 28-year-old rapper named Takeoff died in the at a bowling alley early this morning.
And probably in one of the most disturbing audios I've ever heard, Quavo could be heard pleading and screaming for Takeoff's life.
I'm a
screaming, ah! So I'm thinking that's the victim.
Sadly, no matter how loud Quavo screamed, even with the nurse present and willing to help them, Takeoff was already gone. He was only 28 years old at the time of his passing.
Chill, you know what I'm saying, laid back, but it's time to pop it, you know what I mean? Time to give me my flowers, you know what I mean? I don't want them later on when I ain't here.
God damn it,
you know what I mean? I want them right now, so.
Give me flowers.
But of course, a disturbing and tragic moment such as the case of Takeoff's passing doesn't just happen like that. But before we dive deep into this gut-wrenching incident, we have to go back to the last week of October 2022. At this point, the Migos, then consisting of only Takeoff, rest in peace, and his uncle, Quavo, have been riding high off the success of their latest album, Only Built for Infinity Links, the first album they made as a duo. Upon its release, the album received generally positive reviews from music review sites and critics. More importantly, Only Built for Infinity Links debuted at number 7 on the US Billboard 200 chart, selling 33K first week and accumulating a total of 40 million on-demand streams for the album's songs. So it's safe to say that their album was overall successful and that its success was due for celebration. And so that's what they did. On the night of October 31st, 2022, Takeoff and Quavo, still riding the high from their relative W of their first album as a duo, as well as to celebrate the release of their new music video for Messy, decided to hit the streets of Houston, Texas to party. However, there's one thing you should know before we dive deep into the story, and that is the ever controversial concept of checking in. Now, while you might think this concept is irrelevant to our story, checking in, quote unquote, was one of the most pivotal factors that influenced almost each and every moment in the story.
When it come down to Takeoff, he checked in. You know, Quavo checked in. They checked in with, you know, down there with Jay Prince and, you know, Mob Ties guys and everything like that. But he still ended up.
Bear with me for a second. In hip hop and just the streets in general, checking in is an informal term that refers to hip hop artists connecting with certain street figures in a city when they visit, especially for rappers who want to freely hang around certain groups and do certain activities, if you catch my drift. And the more street an artist is, the more it's expected for them to check in. Now that we've got that out of the way, let's get back to discussing the series of haunting clips that would eventually lead to tragedy. As we've mentioned, the Migos, with the exception of Offset, celebrated the success of their most recent album in the city of Houston. And of course, when you're a rapper and you're in Houston, there's one place that's essential: Johnny Dang's jewelry shop.
This is surveillance video of Takeoff and Quavo, along with their entourage, walking into Houston's Johnny Dang & Company custom jewelry.
We open late for you because that's a convenient that I always take care of them.
In the last remaining hours before his untimely demise, Takeoff was seen entering Johnny & Co. together with Quavo and their entourage. According to Johnny, the Migos stopped by his shop to get some jewelry cleaned and to check out a couple of new pieces. And while the video itself isn't that disturbing, in hindsight, seeing a person in his last few hours alive is something that is truly heartbreaking. However, one of the most haunting parts about this moment was when Johnny talked about seeing Takeoff before the tragedy, especially thinking about how Johnny had zero idea that this would be the last time he would ever interact with Takeoff.
He just said right there on Monday night, Takeoff is the one, he very, very quiet, so nice. I've been around with them so many times.
But Johnny would add a statement that just encapsulated what the hip hop community really felt when it all happened.
Losing, you know, lost one of the member like Takeoff is a very big loss.
But as you can assume by now, there's more to the story, as Johnny's jewelry shop wasn't the only place that the Migos stopped by. After their trip to Johnny's, the Migos and their entourage were set to meet some friends and associates at a private party which was allegedly hosted by Jay Prince Jr. at a place called 810 Billiards and Bowling, a bowling alley which was located downtown at San Jacinto Street. And this is where things would pick up. Several photos and videos were uploaded showing the Migos hanging out with the Mob Ties. But let's pause for a bit to discuss something, once again, because I've mentioned two important factors to this disturbing story. One is Jay Prince Jr. and the other is Mob Ties. Now, the question is, who are they and what significance do they have for this story? If you didn't know, Mob Ties is a Houston-based streetwear brand, and the company's founder and CEO is Jay Prince Jr. But there's so much more that you need to know. See, Jay Prince Jr. is one of the sons of an infamous figure named Jay Prince, who is famous for founding the record label called Rap-A-Lot Records, but is more well known for being an alleged mob boss with a strong influence in the politics and streets of Houston. So what does this have to do with the whole story? Well, remember when we talked about checking in? That plays a big role right here, because allegedly the Migos checked in with Jay Prince so that them and their entourage could party and hang out in the city. And this is important because of one crucial detail. Since the Migos checked in with Jay Prince, it meant that they should be safe and protected by Jay Prince's crew, especially since they were hanging out with Mob Ties, more specifically Jay Prince Jr. and Jaws Prince, another one of Jay Prince's sons. Okay, so now that we've tied these factors together, let's get back to the story. As mentioned, the Migos linked up with the Mob Ties crew, which included the Prince siblings and their entourage. Of course, since we're talking about high-profile people who are involved in the story, that being the Migos and the Mob Ties, they posted pictures and videos on social media. While some pictures posted were just normal pictures, such as these photos of Takeoff just chilling, as we all know, it's essentially a standard protocol for these high-profile rappers to be armed no matter what. And well, this resulted in another disturbing video.
Don't think we're playing, man. Hey, man, we got a little bit of straightening going on.
And while the video itself looked normal, in hindsight, the context of that specific clip would prove to be one of the ominous videos that foretold what was next to come for the Mob Ties, Quavo, and sadly, for Takeoff. In the Instagram story posted by someone from the Mob Ties crew, we can see Quavo sitting in the passenger seat. But what some people failed to notice was that Quavo was seated next to a gun. The person recording then mentioned there's a little bit of straightening going on. But what could such a harmless sounding phrase actually mean? Well, in rap lingo, straightening means before you can fix the problem, you have to meet the problem halfway. In the words of the Migos, who were actually the ones responsible for coining the term, not really, but kind of through a song they released.
Straightening mean before you get, you know what I'm saying, before you get an understanding, you gotta get some straightening. You know what I'm saying? Before you can figure something out, you got to straighten it out.
But what made the video so ominous was the implication that the firearm presented in the video would be the thing that they would allegedly be using to straighten things out with whoever it was they had any problems with, which now proved to be an ironic and foreboding symbol. Shortly after the Instagram story, another peculiar video would be posted, and this time, Takeoff was nowhere to be seen.
Yo, we sliding through the town, man. We sliding through the town. Got the birthday boy. Yeah, also. Yeah, we on the 5th. Yeah, the 5th, boy.
The video showed Quavo in the passenger seat together with members of the Mob Ties crew, with Jaws Prince driving on their way to the private birthday party hosted by J. Prince Jr. Takeoff was also on his way to the private party but rode in a different vehicle. Some suggested that the reason Takeoff rode in another vehicle was due to his introverted nature and not wanting to be involved in any drama. In other words, Takeoff did not want to ride in a car where an exposed firearm was lying around. This was a really ironic situation, if you think about it. Unfortunately for Quavo, little did he know that these same people he rode in the car with would possibly be the ones who would leave him and Takeoff high and dry when things went south. Regardless, Quavo would reunite with Takeoff at around 11 p.m. at the venue for the private party, the A10 Billiards and Bowling, where the two enjoyed themselves and mingled with others for about 2 hours. It was all fun and games with the Migos. And as they were about to find out, this fun night they were having was about to turn into something sinister and traumatic. And so, the private party ended at around 1 in the morning. However, despite the party ending, the Migos decided to stay around and hang out with the remaining partygoers, which included their entourage, but also some people from the Mob Ties, as well as other bystanders. And this was the crucial decision that proved to be life-changing, a fatal mistake that they would soon regret for years to come, more so for Quavo.
Now, investigators are hoping that video from that music festival tragedy helps them piece together exactly what went wrong.
This resulted in another disturbing video, and our first moment was captured and broadcasted for the entire world to see, and will go down as one of the most horrific moments in modern music history, with a live stream in 4K, drone shots,
So we're gonna show everybody at home a little something real quick, Houston.
news reports,
At the Travis Scott Astroworld Festival, at least 8 people we know were killed at last night's concert.
and fan footage.
Exactly right. Someone in there. People Two hands to the sky.
And we're talking about none other than the tragedy that was Travis Scott's infamous Astroworld 21. So what exactly happened that was so horrifying? Well, on the night of November 5th, 2021, news outlets and social media platforms worldwide broke the news of an unexpected crowd rush incident at the NRG Park in Houston, Texas. Soon, more and more details about this horrific incident would arise.
Like, we was like literally like in hell, bro. Like, it felt like we was in a concert in hell. You couldn't breathe.
It was clear that Travis Scott's third ever Astroworld Festival was a complete and total disaster, but not for the live musical performances, nor the production and stage issues, which are common complaints from live concert goers. Rather, it was for something much worse. But let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Travis Scott began his infamous Astroworld 2021 set with a new song called Escape Plan, a song that Scott released to the world that same day. And the title of that song would soon prove to be very ironic in the worst way, as unbeknownst to Travis Scott, some members of his crowd would find themselves looking for their own escape plan.
You could see the panic and fear in their eyes. These fenced-off, corralled areas, they allowed nowhere to escape. It was one way in, one way out.
Disturbing footage showed that even early on in Travis Scott's set, things immediately appeared to be catastrophic for his fans. I mean, just look at how terrifying this mosh pit is.
Houston, Texas, make some motherfucking noise!
However, just minutes after Travis Scott's set began, all that hype from the crowd would turn into fear, pain, and suffering, as despair would reign over the crowd when fans near the main stage were seen struggling to stay on their feet. 5 minutes later into Travis's set, members of the crowd would slowly feel the weight of the overcrowding.
I was like, man, this is not safe. Like, I started to notice, I look in front of me, I see people crying. I look inside of me. I see my friends. They're yelling for help. They're saying we got to get out.
As fans from the farthest part of the crowd were pushing the ones in the front to try and get near to the stage to see their favorite rapper. But at the time, what many didn't realize was while the frenzied crowd at the far back were trying to push their way to the front to get a closer look at their idol, they were unknowingly contributing to a very dangerous situation, as not even 10 minutes into Travis Scott's set, a horrific scream would haunt a section of the crowd.
Can't breathe! She can't breathe!
If only those people in the back knew how risky what they were doing was, as well as how dangerous it actually was to be at the front. They probably wouldn't even have pushed forward to begin with. However, it would only snowball from there, literally. A statement from one of the people that went to Astroworld 2021 mentioned how dangerous the motion of the crowd was to get under.
Once the crowd was moving, you were moving with it. You were at the mercy of the crowd, pretty much. There was no way you would have been able to move around or keep yourself stable.
And that really sounds like a scary situation to be caught in. And while the unsuspecting Travis Scott was performing what he thought was the greatest set of his life, some members of the crowd were fighting for their own lives, as shown by this fan's video. And when there are fans pleading for their lives, it's no longer a concert, it's a stampede. And the sad part was that there was nothing the people in the vicinity could do, because they themselves could barely move and were simply subject to the mercy of the crowds who were behind and pushing them. So did they stop? No. Because around 16 minutes into his performance, as Travis Scott played the 5th song in his set, Carousel, drone footage showed the alarming image of the crowd. But as you know by now, things would only get worse and worse. Because while Travis Scott assumed that his entire crowd was enjoying his performance due to the commotion, it was around that time in his set that some of his fans were focusing on something else. In this video, which I can only describe as traumatic, you can clearly see some members of the crowd lying on the ground, with one fan receiving CPR, while others were looking extremely confused as to what was actually happening. After that, Travis tried to incite more chaos from his fans, which in hindsight was a terrible thing to do.
All the real rangers around here, you know what time it is, so get your section straight right now.
This, of course, with Scott's loyal and obedient fans obliging, only worsened the situation for everyone else caught in the crowd crush, with this drone shot just how brutal the scene really was on the ground.
So we gonna show everybody at home a little something real quick, Houston. Here we go, Chase B.
And honestly, the more that you watch and rewatch these 10 seconds of absolute chaos from the drone footage, the more horrible it all looks, as every rewatch makes you see different sections of a crowd who were just more or less trying to survive the stampede. But it didn't end there. In fact, it only got worse. About a quarter into Travis Scott's killer set, he sees something peculiar in the crowd.
Turn the lights on. I think I see somebody in the tree. Turn the lights on.
Travis Scott, of course, didn't see the sea of fans getting trampled right in front of him. He saw a man from the crowd hanging from a tree. However, it's probably safe to assume that the man not only climbed up the tree to be noticed by his idol, but instead probably went up the tree to be safe from getting trampled.
Make some noise for my boy right there, hanging in the tree right there. Make some noise. Everybody put a middle finger up to the sky because my boy ready to rage.
But for those who weren't paying attention, there was something much worse going on during that moment.
See somebody in the tree, turn the lights on.
If we go back to the video of Travis noticing the guy hanging from the tree, you can clearly see something crazier that was going on in the back. Looking closely at the right side of the video, we can see a member of the security team signaling something to the crowd, possibly telling fans to get back from the stage. So clearly, if security was getting involved and telling fans to fall back, the production crew, overlooking everything, should have known things were going badly, right? However, nothing was done about it. So why? Well, you see, Travis Scott's Astroworld Festival was probably one of the most anticipated events in the rap scene since it started in 2018, which was evident by the 50,000 plus strong crowd who bought tickets for the sold out show in 2021. But notice that I said concert goers who bought tickets. Well, it's because allegedly, some Travis Scott fans jumped the barricade and overcrowded the show. However, this issue shouldn't have been much of a problem, since the NRG Stadium has a seating capacity of 71,795 people, so there should have been more space, right? Well, doubts regarding the crowd attendance numbers had already come up, because later on, it was found that Travis and his organizers were ignorant of overpopulating the venue for the sake of optics from the start, initially planning on having more than 100,000 people attend. However, due to the obvious safety concerns, the Houston City local authorities called for the number of attendees to be limited to around 70,000 people. Later down the road, attendee numbers were further reduced to 50,000, half of what had initially been expected for Travis Scott's highly anticipated festival, and a quarter of what the NRG Park Stadium's total capacity of 200,000 could technically hold. But of course, those 50,000 ticket buyers who weren't expected to come weren't obviously the only people that came to that venue. And I'm not just accusing anyone of breaking into the venue without paying. There's literally footage of people just breaking into the stadium in 4K. And by the way, it's not like it was a couple of people sneaking into the concert venue. Fans were pouring in the hundreds. Imagine paying around $350 for general admission, and then people just allegedly break in. So in hindsight, there were clearly very serious problems that were bound to occur due to mismanagement. However, Travis and his organizers didn't believe so. Unfortunately, they were very, very wrong. Nevertheless, despite the security team having seen the dangers of the overcrowding and pushing that caused ripple effects, the show obviously continued. About 20 minutes into his set, while Travis Scott was having the time of his life performing his classic song Mamacita, a Houston firefighter outside the venue who was monitoring radio communication channels logged a horrific entry for his report, stating, "Report of individual with crush injury, breathing difficulty." The issue was, while these horrible incidents were all going on one by one, most concert goers were still blissfully unaware that their actions and simply their presence within the crowd had resulted in consequences that neither they nor Travis Scott at the time could ever make up for.
People obviously were like pushing and stuff, and no one was on the ground in the area I was at. We didn't hear anyone saying like stop the show. We didn't hear anyone saying, oh, people are getting hurt.
But randomly, at around 9:25 in the evening, members of the distressed crowd felt some relief, as for the first time during his set, because Travis Scott randomly stopped his show to call for security to help out someone from the crowd. So hey, maybe Travis was trying to look out for the crowd's safety. Well, not really, because while the frantic crowd and the struggling response teams assumed that their night was gonna get saved for the better, it turned out that Travis Scott only had his own people in mind.
My man Tom Sachs in the motherfucking building. Legend. And whatever he needs to see, we gotta get. Yo, Mike Brown. Make sure he good. Elijah, walk with him. Take him.
After doing a bit of research, it turns out that that man was named Tom Sachs and was far from a random fan, rather an artist who painted this art piece, which amounted to $225,000. And of course, after successfully protecting his man Tom Sachs, and despite having a brief assessment of how the crowd looked, Travis went on. Who would have known? Just take a look at this crowd for a bit.
Let's do it.
It isn't the biggest crowd that any artist has ever gathered for a concert. And no, it's not the first time that a massive mosh pit has taken place. But compared to other large crowds, this image of concert goers does not look safe at all. Just pay attention to how the fans move like waves. People aren't supposed to be grouped up together that close and pushed forward. And it looks even worse from a fan's perspective.
Hey, don't get him, get him. And to everybody that's watching at home right now.
So as the night went on, everything got worse and worse for for everyone, except for Travis, of course. The situation got so bad that there even came a point in the concert when the official video footage for Astroworld caught this disturbing scene of people in the crowd waving for help from the camera crew. And this is what they were saying. Just people crying for help, pleading for their lives, you know? And seeing and hearing something as terrifying as that, combined with the previous clips of people in the crowd waving and pleading for help, should have already alerted the camera crew. But nothing seemed to, because a minute after capturing the crowd waving for help, the festival's videographers caught this alarming scene. The clip shows a section of the crowd making space for someone we can only assume collapsed. Just look at those faces. If those don't look like the faces of people panicking and worrying about someone's life, or lives even, then I don't know what is. But this wasn't a simple case of overcrowding, because when we apply actual science to this horrific incident, it paints a much more disturbing picture of negligence from the organizers, arrogance from Travis Scott, and recklessness from his fans and the crowd in general. According to researchers from Carnegie Mellon University, who used a crowd counting model to estimate the density in the area, around roughly 3 minutes into the concert, in some pockets of the area where the video image was the clearest, the density reached as high as 1.85 square feet per person. The question is, what does all this science mean? Well, simply put, a density of 1.5 square feet per person can cause comprehensive asphyxiation, which means that when fans are cramped up in such a tiny space, temperatures rise rapidly, causing people within the crowd to not be able to breathe properly, which is exactly what happened to the unfortunate victims of Astroworld 2021. But it wasn't as if the concert goers weren't completely oblivious to the dangerous situation that was unfolding in real time. In fact, many were aware of how serious the situation had slowly gone and were literally feeling the weight of the crowd and what was about to happen.
I was like, man, this is not safe. Like, I started to notice, I look in front of me, I see people crying, I look in the side of me, I see my friends, they're yelling for help, they're saying we gotta get out.
So while the official festival camera crew caught that alarming scene happening, something much more interesting was happening at the same time.
That's okay, real quick.
While the camera crew above were taking videos of people suffering in the middle of the crowd, another group of fans were begging a camera to stop the show. Was the reason those two fans were screaming from the bottom of their lungs to that crew was much darker, because their friend had just been taken by the crowd crush. The man in the video, Aiden Cruz, had this to say about the traumatic incident.
We ended up falling down on our backs, and people ended up falling on top of us, just like suffocating. You're like counting your last breaths.
Sadly, in the same moment, while Aiden was trying to do a heroic thing by begging the crew to stop the show, Travis Scott's fans just showed how much class they really had.
We're in there, bro. Exactly right. We're in there. People are somebody's life. That's somebody's kid.
2 hands to the sky.
If only these fans knew how much destruction their idol had been causing. However, despite the adamant begging from Aiden and his girlfriend, no one from the production team did anything about it. Either the camera crew didn't understand what they were actually seeing, or the organizers didn't give a single damn about what the crowd was telling them. And while the official footage showed large amounts of the crowd waving for help, fan footage within the crowd showed a much more disturbing incident.
At around 9:28, video shows other people are on the ground in the South Quadrant, pleading for help and dialing 911.
That video is messed up. But you may think, hey, it's not Travis Scott's job to protect his fans who bought the tickets to his show. He was the performer, and he probably couldn't see what was going on in the 50K plus crowd, right? This was a question that practically everyone had and was debating. How much fault did Travis Scott have in all of this? Well, fans found a moment that captured how reckless Travis seemed. Let me explain. See, almost 30 minutes into his set, while Travis was basking in the glory of the chaos he created, something interesting happened. As Travis was looking into the crowd, he noticed some odd blinking lights.
It's an ambulance in the crowd. Whoa, whoa, whoa.
While you would think that that would be enough to make Travis realize that there was really something bad going on and that his fans weren't fully having a good time, you'd be mistaken. Because out of the two options you'd have, one being to pause your concert and tell your security team and your fans to make way for the ambulance so they can do their jobs and possibly save lives, or ask your fans to turn up and ignore them, Travis did the latter. In an even more disturbing show of indifference towards the safety and well-being of his fans, instead of telling his fans to make way for the ambulance, Travis opted to continue his show. And now, you might even tell me, what if Travis just assumed that the ambulance was there for the sake of it? Well, if that's the case, I'll just let this next clip speak for itself.
Yeah, all that. 2 hands to the sky. 2 hands to the sky. 2 hands up, y'all. 2.
In a baffling moment, after two guys tried to tell Travis something that had to do with the ambulance, instead of trying to address the obviously serious situation, Travis did this.
Y'all know what y'all came to do. Chase me, let's go.
Yup, he really did the "oh no, anyway" meme. And even though Travis Scott clearly saw the ambulance and that it was obvious that the emergency response team was trying to save someone's life, Travis simply diverted the fans' attention back on himself. I mean, in a way, I kinda get it, performance-wise. It was halfway through his set, and pausing the concert might ruin the momentum and kill the vibes and all of that. However, Travis Scott's action there simply showed how he cared more about his performance than his fans. And despite seeing the ambulance struggle to get to their destination, Travis said this instead.
I wanna make this motherfucker ground shake, goddammit.
So, after clearly seeing the ambulance and then eventually backtracking to pretend he didn't see those red and blue blinking lights, Travis continued with his set. And this time, things were about to get a lot more symbolic and ominous for the wrong reasons. Around 33 minutes and 40 seconds into his set, Travis stood at the far front of the stage. All of a sudden, Travis reached new heights, literally, as the platform he was standing on began to elevate. And it even looked like Travis was raised up a good 6 feet or more, which meant that he had the perfect vantage point to see the horrible things that his fans were experiencing, or so we thought. Because after performing on the elevated platform, and even after having this much time to look at the situation with the ambulance,
Houston, Texas, make some other noise real quick, y'all.
Clearly, Travis wasn't taking any type of warning. However, let's not get too ahead of ourselves, because before we fully explore what exactly it was that transpired that turned this music festival from an annual crowd favorite into one of the deadliest crowd control disasters at a concert in the US in recent history, we have to dive deep into Travis's history with being reckless. At the core of all these horrific incidents is Travis Scott, who, although never intended for any harm to happen to his fans, has had a tumultuous and documented history of inciting unwarranted chaotic energy from his fans. I know that was a mouthful, but what I mean is, he just has a history of being very reckless, especially when it comes to his live shows.
Okay, first of all, I don't with this. All real Rangers fans, jump over the fence now and get here right now. Let's go.
You see, Travis has this habit of encouraging his fans at shows to break rules and regulations in concert environments.
Now let's go. Security, don't you touch him. Don't you touch him. Security, back up. Let him over. Let him over.
And while on paper that might sound like a great way for him to further create a connection with his fans and make them love and appreciate him more as an artist, which honestly me and many fans for years appreciated, we now know with the information we have about Astroworld 2021 just how badly encouragements like these can get.
Get that mother. Get him. Come on. Come on. Come on.
Can backfire in the worst way, which they obviously did. So you now understand why what happened at Astroworld in 2021 was inevitable. So while Travis Scott was celebrating on top of the world, many of his fans were suffering at the bottom, literally, as the crowd crush was making the concert goers' lives feel like hell. Many of them were literally fighting for their lives, trying to leave the hellish scene.
You can see me trying here to push through people, but no luck. I even said I can't leave.
Nevertheless, about 40 minutes into this horrible concert experience, more horrible news would reach the ears of the local response teams who were trying their best to save people. Around 9:39 p.m., the Houston Fire Department made their first call, dispatching 16 fire department units to the disastrous scene at the NRG Park, which was captured in a public communications channel for backup.
Special events stands by. Ambulance 33, Ambulance 37, Ambulance 46.
There was even a TikTok clip showing just how many ambulances were dispatched to respond to the Astroworld fiasco.
2 minutes from where Astroworld was held, and I saw this on my way home last night.
Just 3 minutes after, more units were dispatched, and at around 9:42 p.m., something miraculous happened. As Travis Scott was ad-libbing his heart out with his song 90210, he actually paused mid-performance.
Let's play it slowly. We need somebody to help him. Somebody passed out right here.
However, while the desperate crowd at the front expected Travis to stop the show entirely to give them some much-needed breathing space and allow rescue teams to get into the crowds to gather people who were collapsed on the floor, Travis was not about to let a single lifeless body stop him from making Astroworld the most memorable music festival of the 2020s, for better or worse. So, of course, the show went on.
Security, somebody help jump in real quick. Keep going. Just keep it just right. Somebody jump in. Come on, security, get in there. Let's get in there. Let's get in there. Let's get in there. Let's get in there.
And Travis really threw out this auto-tune yeah just to rub salt on their wounds. Accidentally, of course.
Yeah.
Keep in mind that while all this was happening, Travis was still standing on his elevated platform, which meant that he had a substantial amount of time with a great view to see what was happening to his fans. And when I say he had a good view, this is what I meant. Yup, you saw that right. Travis was doing his auto-tune yaz while watching his fans' lifeless body being carried by security. But at some point, after seeing the lack of empathy not just from the fans, but also from their favorite rapper, who they had just witnessed singing in auto-tune while looking at a lifeless fan, in an unsurprising moment, eventually, the desperate concert goers stopped being blind Travis Scott followers and started caring about their own lives and the safety and well-being of the people around him.
Stop the show! Stop the show! Stop the show! Stop the show!
Unfortunately, no matter how the concert goers screamed, all of their pleading and screaming fell on deaf ears, and Travis simply moved on from the horrific scene and played more hits. However, more tension would haunt the city of Houston, and this time, the whole city would learn about how serious and grave everything truly got. According to the Houston firefighter situation logs, at 9:52 p.m., the Houston Fire Incident Commander logged this note: IC request level 1 MCI. If you don't understand basic incident command system, that log meant that the Housing Fire Incident Commander just declared the Astroworld's festival crowd crush as a mass casualty incident, which meant that the incident required double the number of responding rescue teams to the scene. It also indicated that within 1 hour of Travis Scott's performance, the festival turned from a fun and energetic music event into a disastrous and deadly incident. But let's pause for a second and rewind, because despite the obvious aspect of overcrowding as the reason for this deadly disaster, we should also discuss why and how the crowd management got so bad that people were getting seriously harmed. So there are two things we currently know. One is that Travis Scott's festival Astroworld was sold out and amassed around 50,000 ticket sales. However, we also know that initially the organizers expected around 100,000 people, which was reduced to 70,000 by local Houston authorities and again lessened to around 50,000. But despite reducing the number of attendees for Astroworld down to half of what the organizers originally wanted, there were far bigger threats and issues that Travis Scott and the crew behind Astroworld and the Houston government could never have foreseen coming, that would lead to the downfall of the festival. And that was the management team and their mismanagement of the event. For instance, on the day of the concert, things immediately started to look scary for everyone involved as soon as the day started. One was that On the side of the response team assigned to manage the entire event, chaos had already ensued. It was reported that, in the planning documents, a second incident command post in the purple lot was outlawed. Sam Penna, chief of the Houston Fire Department, stated that he was not aware of the second command post and no firefighters were posted there. It was already apparent early on that things were not going to go smoothly and were not being handled as professionally as they could be. At around 10 in the morning, it was reported by the Houston Fire Department that the venue's line fences were damaged and that hordes of fans were breaking into the venue without paying for a ticket. But what was glaring about this was that even back then, people were already getting injured. So very early on, ominous signs already showed how dangerous things were going to get. And what's worse was that the security team for the event could not do anything about the gate crashers. I mean, who would have thought that when your favorite rapper, a person you idolize and take influence from, tells you this?
Now let's go. Security, don't you touch him. Don't you touch him. Security, back up.
That you might develop tendencies of breaking security protocols. And obviously, due to the influx of fans suddenly breaking in and causing mayhem at the venue, when chaos is present, you can only expect that at some point, people are going to start getting hurt. Keep in mind that the concert hadn't even started at the time of this clip, which just shows you how much disaster was waiting around the corner to strike. But while the Houston local authorities were doing their best to save people from the crowd crush, they weren't exactly blameless for this disaster. Despite doing their jobs, they still had their fair share of failures all throughout the event, one of which was captured by a member of the crowd. In this video, from one of the concert goers, the Houston Police Department made a huge error. Understandably, the rescue team was probably distressed and worn out from everything that was happening. But dropping someone on the ground who was already passed out, that's just careless. This just showed how messed up everything from the event truly was, and how Travis Scott wasn't really the only person accountable for this disaster, but rather everyone involved with the event. But despite what we just saw, Travis Scott seemed like he was the most responsible, because after all, it was his own show. What's crazy is it still wasn't over. At around 52 minutes into his set, Travis still hadn't run out of tricks under his sleeve.
To the back, 2 hands to the sky. 2 hands up.
And he did this while knowing that a member of his crowd was getting carried out minutes ago for collapsing and not being able to move and breathe properly. And as if things couldn't get any worse, 3 minutes after the Houston Fire Department declared the mass casualty incident, Travis Scott did this.
Houston, I want to see the motherfucking rage. Houston, I want to see the motherfucking rage. And Chase B, I know what's gonna give it. Chase B, let's do it.
To rile up the crowd, Travis brought out Drake for a surprise appearance, which obviously caused more frenzy, to the delight of Travis and Drake fans, but also to the dismay of the suffering concert goers. I mean, wasn't this
Stop the show! Stop the show! Stop the show! Stop the show!
enough rage for Travis? Eventually, Travis Scott would reach the end of his set. However, before leaving, Travis did something that in hindsight was kind of insulting to his fans. Being blissfully oblivious to what just happened to many of the concert goers, as Travis ended with this statement.
Look at your neighbor, make sure you give him a hug. Make sure that you always saving the next person next to you. Make sure that you always spreading love.
I'm sure the crowd, who could barely move, barely breathe, loved hearing Travis talk about giving each other a hug. And while I'm sure Travis had nothing but good intentions for his fans, unfortunately for a select few members of the crowd, these parting words were probably some of the last words they heard on earth.
The only thing that we do this festival for, and everything that we do for life, is to give back to this community. So I love y'all so much. Before we go, I just want to send you with one more motherfucking message.
Nevertheless, Travis performed the last song for his set, Goosebumps, which once again was very ironic due to how people felt watching the disturbing and gruesome videos. And with that, at around 10:12 p.m., Astroworld 2021 had officially ended, to the relief of pretty much everyone in the crowd who was caught in the crowd crush. Sadly, as you would expect, despite making it out alive, the scars left by the traumatic event would haunt concert goers for years and years to come.
It's just something that you'll never forget, and something that's truly traumatizing. Knowing that people died that night, and then knowing that people were asking for my help, that's just very scary. To this day, their voices don't leave my head.
In the aftermath of this disaster, it was reported that around 300 concertgoers were treated by medical personnel on site, and that another 25 were transported to a hospital nearby. And today, Travis Scott's festival, Astroworld 2021, is remembered as one of the most disastrous large crowd events related to music in the 2000s. Our next moment involves someone who used to be on top of the internet, and not only was this disturbing, but it was also really sad. And we're talking about none other than Boonk, who basically ran social media back in 2018, who would become famous for his viral Boonk Gang videos, where he would commit some type of petty theft and record himself. For example, when he ran off on a barber after getting a haircut without paying.
How much I owe you? 20. I'm gonna go get it from my dog. No. You owe him $20, bro. Huh? $20.
Afterwards, Boonk would say his infamous tagline, Boonk Gang, and I'm sure a lot of you will remember when this was a trend, probably when you were back in school, along with World Star. However, behind the animated persona that was seen on the internet was something much darker. And while he wasn't necessarily a rapper, he was heavily involved in the scene, and this situation in particular was with a very well-known media outlet in rap. So what happened to him? It all started on July 23rd, 2018, when while doing a live stream on his channel, No Jumper, Adam22 had a not-so-random guest pop into his store, Boonk. And right from the jump, it was clear that Boonk was heavily intoxicated, as he was hardly able to form a coherent sentence and stand.
Hey, what's up, bro?
Adam, immediately sensing Boonk was under the influence, fake laughed to make the situation a little less awkward, and asked him if he's messed up.
Adam, make sure I deliver him to you, Adam.
How you doing?
Adam.
You f***ed up?
He said, make sure you get me to Adam. What's up?
He clearly was. Boonk was barely able to speak and wasn't able to stand straight. However, he was right about one thing.
This interview going viral.
Adam22 had absolutely no idea what was happening, which was funny because it was his live stream.
So what's going on?
No. We're not in the interview yet. We're just chilling right now. So.
And he even tried to look out for Boonk a little by explaining to Boonk that they were live streaming.
You know we're live though, right?
Boonk didn't care.
Yeah, but this is like pre-talk. So we're not into nothing yet.
And wanted to get right into an interview.
I sit over there with an interview.
Once again, Adam22 tried to look out for Boonk and advised him against appearing on camera in his current state.
I'm gonna be honest though, I don't really think we should be doing an interview because you're a little f***ed up, and I just don't think it. You know, you probably shouldn't just be on camera like that. You could be on your social media like that.
But Boonk once again denied it and actually gave a half-decent answer.
Listen, I'm Boonk Gang, right? So Boonk Gang is known for doing craziness, like illiterateness, like dumb shit. Like basically, Boonk Gang is known for doing dumb shit.
So to Boonk, it didn't matter how he appeared.
So as right now, it doesn't matter how I look, how I feel, or anything. The interview is still gonna go viral.
Clearly, Boonk did not have anyone that actually cared for him around him, as everyone around him seemed to be okay with him embarrassing himself in front of a huge platform online. I mean, if Adam22 feels morally wrong about something, it's probably pretty messed up. So once again, he suggested that him and Boonk do an interview another time.
Start an interview.
I think we should postpone it. I'm gonna be honest.
No postpone.
Yes, you heard him. Boonk said Post Malone. And Adam explained he just didn't feel right about the state Boonk was in.
Just because I don't know that this is the state. I like interviewing you. It's dope. The two interviews we already did were both dope. But I'm just gonna be real. I don't know.
And this is where we got the first sign that things were gonna get worse than not just being able to string together some sentences. Boonk claimed that he just had the hiccups, which probably meant that there was something going on with the stomach. And this is where we got the first sign that things were gonna get worse than not just being able to string together some sentences. Because Boonk claimed he had the hiccups, which probably meant that there was something going on with the stomach due to substances.
Right now, I got the hiccups, so I may be pausing. That's the only. I got the hiccups. Yeah, look. Besides the hiccups, other than that, I'm good. We can talk, we can interview, we can everything.
And to his credit, he was speaking more clearly. However, when he began drinking water, he couldn't even drink it properly.
Hiccups are bad, but I don't know. I feel like we should probably wait to do the interview until you're in a better.
And at this point, Boonk revealed some pretty disturbing information, that this was the state he was in every day.
Listen, it's no better place than where I'm at right now. Because listen, I'm like this every day, right?
So to him, it didn't make sense not to go on an interview.
So it's like it's no better place than I could be right now, and then every day from forth. It's just right now only got the hiccups. Interview viral.
We might already be viral.
Little did Adam know, he was not only right, but it would become one of the most viral moments of both of their careers. And maybe Adam was right, because Boonk didn't even understand he was being interviewed.
Listen, I'll answer questions when we know we're doing the interview.
But we have to start now.
So Adam once again reiterated, maybe we should just not do the interview right now. Maybe we should postpone it.
Let's just do it right here. I mean, I also just don't think we should be doing this in the first place. I think we should wait.
Boonk said, I'm gonna be this messed up till I'm gone, which honestly is really sad.
No, exactly. You think I should wait, but listen, I'm gonna be like this until I pass out. When I say pass out, I mean until my time is over.
He then started rubbing Adam's hairy legs.
You're touching my leg a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. Yeah. He's rubbing the hair. I have very hairy legs.
You do.
All 4 fingers are on there. The thumb is next. What?
Boonk then lists off all his groupies that didn't have the spine to stop what was going on.
And listen, I got my dude Kid Boo. I got Fox. I got Natalie.
You remember that?
And
I'm surprised
listen,
you remember that name.
I got a couple girls here that's with me.
Adam felt guilty. However, it seemed like he knew this video would blow up, so he didn't stop. But he expressed that he didn't think what was happening was right.
You have to understand that it's like unethical to some extent for me to interview somebody when they're extremely inebriated.
Once again, Boonk tried to defend his behavior.
All right, so let's do it. Let's do it as we've been originally doing it. You've been right here and I've been over there.
However, it was just too much, and Adam was starting to get pissed off. So he tried to prove to Boonk that he was severely messed up.
Okay, but this is something people do when they're really f***ed up. They just keep repeating the same thing over and over. It's not going to be entertaining for the people at home to just hear you say where we're sitting over and over.
I guess the jokes, in this case, disturbing scenarios, write themselves.
Listen, I'm not repeating myself.
Yes, you are.
No.
And just look at the way his friends push him around while Boonk can't make any decisions for himself.
Good chairs. Physical chairs. Pillow game. Physical chairs.
And this was a common theme. After the interview, Adam would actually speak about how the people around Boonk really didn't care about his well-being, as if the interview clip wasn't enough.
I would definitely expect all of my friends to not let me go and do an interview. So I just want to throw that out there, that it doesn't seem like there's necessarily a lot of people in his life who really give a shit about him, because if they did, they would probably step in and intervene.
The thing is, it wasn't just Boonk's friends around him, but also his so-called fans who would encourage him to take more substances. For example, in this Instagram live that took place at 4 in the morning, he's clearly messed up.
Oh no. Listen, what was I saying? I was saying, I don't know what the f I was saying.
However, fans urged him to take more. Afterwards, Adam finally stood his ground and explained if things didn't get a little better.
All right, boom. We better make some headway in this conversation, or we're gonna have to depart. Talk to me.
Boonk begged him.
No depart. No depart.
And I mean, just look at Boonk struggle to get a lighter that's a foot away from him.
Oh, wait.
And so, the interview, if you could call it one, began, and it only got sadder. Adam began asking Boonk about his obvious problem, and Boonk not only addressed it, but even explained the reason why he was coping so hard.
Well, I like that idea. Let me ask you this, though. What is going on with you right now? You're obviously wasted, but are you at an okay place in your life right now?
Boonk tried to deny it at first, and say he was...
Nah, listen. I am at an okay place right now for a fact. You know what I'm saying?
But Boonk eventually admitted that there was something deeply wrong with him.
Right. Well, I like that idea, but I'm concerned about how f***ed up you are right now. Like, why are you getting so loaded? This is way worse.
Even the doctor said that there was a certain problem, but Boonk was too messed up to say what.
I be feeling that I don't know I be feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like I went to the doctor. I went to the doctor the other day, and it was like I had good lungs, I had good heart, I got good vitals. The only problem was there was like.
However, after a lot of back and forth between Boonk and Adam, Boonk finally gave away one piece of the puzzle. It turned out Boonk had severe anxiety, and that was just the start of his horrible issues at the time.
Answer to that question. Are you stressed or do you have anxiety? I'm guessing yes.
But anxiety, I do have. Cause look, like I get nervous, my hands will start shaking, my hands will get sweaty. Like my heart will start beating fast. So anxiety I do have.
Right.
So Adam asked Boonk if he was being treated, and Boonk's answer was equally as sad as it was disturbing.
So are you on anti-anxiety medications right now?
Pause. And I said pause because they was about to prescribe me. Like until I told him I was abusing him.
Right.
And that was just the start of his horrible issues at the time. And Adam even laughed at the fact that in their past interview, he predicted Boonk would relapse. And Boonk really didn't want to.
The funny thing is, the last time we talked, he said, are you gonna relapse? I was like, no, I'm not gonna relapse. I'm done with it.
Boonk explained that he was fighting real demons.
Like Adam, listen, I've been through a lot through life, and like I feel like I control it a lot, but I feel like I got demons inside me.
Right.
And that without substances, Boonk simply physically could not cope.
Real life demons inside me. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like they take over sometimes, and the sober me is like it's hard for me to be sober, only because like when I'm sober, I get like paranoid. My hands start swaying.
But when Boonk used substances, he was fine. Not really, but at least the pain went away. So to him, it was better than being sober.
But I got to, cause when I take drugs, like I feel nothing.
But Adam still wasn't sure what was going on behind the scenes because Boonk was severely wasted, not just a little under the weather. So he advised him.
So what have you been up to? And why are you so loaded? I'm still trying to figure that out. Man, look at those eyes.
You said what?
And then they borderline got into an argument over whether Boonk was loaded or not. And Boonk genuinely did not realize how messed up he was.
You're loaded, bro. Why are you so messed up? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
All right. Look at me in my eyes. Do I look up?
Yes.
At this point, Adam's conscience was starting to weigh on him, and he realized what he was doing wasn't right.
I feel guilty about having you on camera when you're this f***ed up. It's like in the UFC, they won't interview the guy after he gets knocked out because it's like f***ed up.
No, look. So you saying I look like I've been knocked out?
So we tried to end the interview.
Not that you've been knocked out, but you just don't see. Okay, little oil spill there. Okay, it's no big deal. We'll get it. Okay, I think we're running out of time. We might have to wrap this up.
Once again, with just a little pushback, Adam folds and keeps going. Soon, this decision would prove to be a huge mistake.
What
No, we're not running out of time. We good.
I want to wrap it up. What's your message here?
And instead of ending the interview, Boonk finally spills the beans on what really was behind his poor mental health.
My message here is look. Like, all right. For example, you gonna die, right?
Oh yeah.
Me, I'm a die, right?
Right.
It turned out Boonk not only had severe anxiety, but mental issues.
I've been shaking, I've been paranoid, hands sweating. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, I've been going through physical problems. But when I f***ed up, I don't feel nothing. And right now, I don't even know why. I don't even know why the f*** I got the hiccups.
So much so that he was seeing a psychiatrist as well.
Now look, I see a psychiatrist every Wednesday.
How's that going?
And one of the reasons he was so messed up mentally was because he wasn't allowed to see his son.
It's going alright. It's going cool. Like, we talk, and I talked to him about my life right there. You know what I'm saying? You know I got a son.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Yep. My son is probably like 1 month old.
1 month old?
My son, it's a newborn.
Right.
But my baby mom won't let me see him.
However, this was also clearly partially Boong's fault.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Why not? That's hard to imagine.
Boong even said he might steal his son, as a joke though, but honestly, who knows?
And it's crazy, but you know what? You know what I'm gonna do? I'm doing some Boong gang.
Oh, steal the baby. I mean, that's a serious crime.
Stealing the baby would be much fire, but it's just gonna cause more problems.
Yeah, to say the least.
But you see, this wasn't the first time Boong faced severe consequences for his actions that not only painted him in a bad light, but would heavily damage his career. Around this time, Boong was acting out on social media, and one of the things he did was post an inappropriate video with him and a woman, cough cough, to Instagram. As a result, his Instagram with over 5 million followers was deleted.
Well, I hope you get it back. It's a pretty big audience you have on there.
5.2 million before I got deleted.
Yeah.
Well, listen.
It'd be a shame if you lost that.
And at this point, both Adam and Boong knew the interview was going viral. However, ironically, Boong was so messed up, he thought it was going to go viral because he was hiccuping.
Like, you know what? I feel like this gonna go. I feel like this gonna go viral because I hiccup like 50 times.
Obviously, Adam knew better.
Just being fucked up in general might be the reason why it might go a little viral.
Yep. It just might be.
I feel like the most viral part was the moment where I thought that you were gonna puke on me, and you see me like crawling out from under you.
No.
I was terrified.
But you see, Adam wanted something like this to happen because he knew it would result in a viral moment.
When he first walked in.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, because he had the hiccups, and it just seemed like there was a pretty good chance that he was gonna vomit, and yeah, just like that. A part of me was actually kind of scared that. Well, it was part of me was happy like with the idea of him vomiting on me.
Nope.
Because if he puked on me, at least it would be like viral, you know?
However, interestingly enough, neither of them realized how viral the interview would actually go due to what happened next. Because as the interview would end, Boong passed out.
Shout out to the homie Boong. Oh my God.
This moment would not only go on to become massively viral, racking up 5.2 million views when posted, and become one of No Jumper's biggest videos. In fact, Adam would have to paint the wall due to the damage.
We painted the wall actually because your forehead grease was on it. No cap.
And the event would allegedly permanently dent Boong's forehead.
Fully just thud. Like just a real bonk on that wall, man. There might be a little dent or at least some forehead grease.
Right here.
We just had a rumor that this hole was caused by when he fell, his head.
Yeah.
Not only that, it also signified the end of Boong's degeneracy. After the video went that viral, it served as somewhat of a wake-up call to Boong.
So what happened after that legendary moment when you came on the podcast and sort of passed out and smashed your head on the wall right here?
Well, after that, it's like I really like isolated myself from the world.
And he decided to change his life. But you see, right after the viral moment, Boong would do an interview about the situation, stating how he was drinking heavily before the conversation, hoping the interview would go viral, saying, "He ain't got no standards, bruh. He ain't got no morals." According to him, if he were in Adam's position, he would have told himself that the interview was off. Finally, after that, Boonk would take accountability and actually apologize to Adam, writing, "Yo Adam, my bad for throwing all the blame on you before. I was upset and embarrassed. I'm owning up to it now though. Appreciate everything you did, bro. Respect." And Adam would also take accountability, explaining that he should have been better equipped to handle the situation, but explained it wasn't his fault Boonk arrived in that state. Unfortunately, Boonk had already gone down a terrible path, and just a week later, he would be shot twice and hospitalized. Luckily, he survived. And after the dust of the viral video settled, it served as somewhat of a wake-up call to Boonk.
So what happened after that legendary moment when you came on the podcast and sort of passed out and smashed your head on the wall right here?
Well, after that, it's like I really like isolated myself from the world.
And he decided to change his life.
Like, to be honest with you, just like trying to get my head straight.
Today, Boonk is sober.
I'm actually sober, man. And I've been sober 2 years now. You know, all praise to the Most High.
And is a man of God. So good for him. For this next artist, we're going to explore a controversial video that not only painted an extremely disturbing picture about the artist's mental state, but also shed light and blatantly exposed the predatory practices of an entire music industry.
Do you guys remember the whole Lil Peep, the story where his management was giving him drugs? Well, that happened to me on tour.
And of course, we're talking about none other than Lil Xan's disturbingly drugged out moments. On the 7th of May 2018, Lil Xan posted an intriguing post to Instagram. This video in particular started out fairly normal when it came to how Lil Xan usually reached out to his fans on social media. Normal in the sense that Lil Xan looked a little bit up there.
I want to show y'all what mental illness really looks like.
However, what his fans didn't know was that the statement itself had a much deeper meaning. Because right after he said that, Xan would show his G-Wagon that cost anywhere from 150k to 200k USD, and maybe even more.
I just did this to my car.
And showed how badly he keyed it.
Keyed all the way.
Just a little earlier, Xan was actually showing off the G-Wagon as his first car, which he was clearly proud of.
Yo, welcome to Darth Vader. This is my new whip. She's like a 9 out of 10. She ain't like a 10. She's pretty bad. This is my first car.
I'm driving.
Shout out to Mexicans.
But you see, Lil Xan didn't just key it because he was a little sad or angry, or to be a little rebellious. The video was a cry for help, and he explained why. First of all, if you didn't get it by now, Xan was suffering from a mental illness, and none of the fame or money was helping. In fact, as I'm about to explain, it was only making it worse.
Wanna know why I'm doing that? Because of mental illness.
Lil Xan was very unhappy with his management because to him, they were treating him like a slave.
I'm a f***ing slave. I'm a slave to my management. I'm a slave to everybody.
He explained that his management was holding his driver's license and refusing to allow Xan to access his bank account as well, meaning he couldn't even drive the $200,000 plus car he owned.
I don't get control of my license. I don't get control of my bank account. I don't get control of shit. I can't even drive that car.
Meaning he literally had to steal his own car that he bought because they put it in the basement so he couldn't access it.
They put it in the basement so I couldn't take it. I know I don't have a license, but if I have someone with the license, I could take it. So fuck everybody.
But all of that aside, it was clear that Xan not being able to drive wasn't the issue, but how he felt he was being treated and the way he was coping.
This is mental illness. I don't care. Make fun of me. I'm gonna make fun of me on the internet. I don't give a f.
And make fun of him they did. On Instagram, fans commented all sorts of things, but none were sympathetic. Some believed it was just dumb. Others blamed his addiction, writing, "Bro, you're not mental because you keyed a car. That's just stupid. You're an addict that's spoiled and needs to grow up." And others just outright thought Xan wasn't even mentally ill. Let me tell you what mental illness really is. If you are really struggling with mental illness, you don't just casually pull out the phone and show people what you did out of mental illness. People like you made mental illness a trend and something to be proud of, which is why people these days don't take mentally struggling individuals seriously. You are not mentally ill. You are just an attention-seeking. So clearly, fans were showing no sympathy at all. But not everyone was that mean. Fans on Reddit, on r/hiphopheads, actually felt bad. And they actually were outraged that Xan was being treated this way on the internet, defending him, saying mental illness is a serious issue that more young men need to address. I'm guessing people would just clown and on him, but for real, there's a lot of young people with mental health issues out there, and a lot of young men have it, and most of them don't even dare talk about it. People need to acknowledge it and work on it. A ton of these comments are why mental illness still has such a stigma around it. Y'all will defend Kanye all day, but an artist you don't like puts out a very obvious and clear cry for help, and you make fun of him and say he's faking it? That's some BS, man. And even how Zan's label such management was very lucky that they got no slack for this. Most people are bringing attention to mental illness, but I'm surprised how bad the label is screwing him over. When he says he feels like a I believe him. If someone had control of my bank account, I'd be pissed too. And you see, they actually may have very well been right, because later on in his career, Zan would post something even more disturbing that will give a lot of context to the situation. On June 15, 2018, Lil Xan went on Instagram Live, and he began speaking out because according to him, despite being really sick, his management was forcing him to perform regardless.
Like, look at my eyes, bro. Like, they're not good. Like, I'm coughing. I'm sick, bro, from flying like 8 times in a day. You know what I mean? But you know what? I've been getting calls from all the people, all the higher ups telling me, you gotta do it. So I guess, you know what?
Then Zan security attempted to take his phone away from him in an attempt to stop him from going on Instagram Live.
Yo, look, they really trying to take me off live right now. I got it. You know how viral that video is gonna go? Alright.
Later, Zan would reveal that this was his management trying to silence him.
Remember the video where your manager stole your phone? That actually wasn't my manager. That was my security guard on the phone with Stat telling him to get off live. And Stat had my security guard pull the phone off me.
But you see, these weren't the only claims Zan made about his management. Apparently, Zan's management was also supplying him with substances.
And I just wanted to bring up a topic. Do you guys remember the whole Lil Peep, the story where his management was giving him drugs and you know, and it just wasn't helping out and all that? Well, that happened to me on tour, and my manager's name, well, I don't even like to call him my manager anymore, Stat Quo. Remember that name, Stat Quo.
And Zan even said he almost passed multiple times due to his management enabling him.
I almost died on tour multiple times from him supplying me drugs.
At one point, he was even planning on suing his manager.
But yeah, Stat Quo, lawyer up, because seriously, I'm coming for you, bro. I'm literally coming for you.
And you see, this would be disturbing, and it was, until years later, when Zan would explain that he wasn't really telling the full truth.
I remember that, you know, you publicly said that he was just giving you drugs at that time. But I know then I've seen you walk that back too.
Yeah, what I wanted to do with that,
and he regrets what he said because he still was on substances at the time.
I handled that was terrible, and why it was terrible because I was on drugs. I made those statements, and what I regret about that is obviously being on drugs when I made that statement, because a lot of people didn't take me very seriously when I said it. And I mean, why would you? I'm all crazy on live, you know, wild, and I wish I would have.
Meaning, he verified what the public was saying about him. But this wasn't the end to the saga, as a couple weeks later, Zan would explain why he did what he did.
How's everything with you, man? You know, a couple weeks ago, people were concerned because you keyed your car.
Oh yeah, I mean, we all have mental breakdowns, especially in this like industry and stuff.
But before he could finish, ironically, someone from his management was right next to him to stop him from saying too much.
That's my man.
He's the man.
Yeah,
I got him.
That's Stat Quo telling me not to say anything stupid. We all go through like mental problems. I just want to let the world know I'm better. And I'm back, and I feel great. I'm healthy.
And Zan explained that it was just the workload, nothing more. And everything combined was what caused the breakdown, not his management.
Oh, definitely, especially like just like the workload and how much like was on my plate at the time. I just needed to take a break, so it was just a mixture of a bunch of things. And anxiety. I suffer anxiety.
And I'm sure you're wondering what happened to the car. Well, it was fixed.
Did you get the car fixed?
The car is fixed.
Okay, that's good.
The car is fixed.
Well, hey, man, all the best to you, my man. Nice catching up with you.
But you see, this wasn't the only time Lil Xan was in the news for something disturbing. Literally a month after this happened, on September 26th of 2018, Lil Xan would take to the internet and make an announcement that he never thought would become as big as it did. That day, Xan took to Instagram to let his fans know that he had just come back from the hospital right before he was about to begin his tour.
Yeah, I went to the hospital today. You know, getting ready to pack for this tour.
However, to everyone's relief, it was not due to drugs.
I just want to let everybody know I was in the hospital, not due to any drugs.
But rather because Zan ate too many hot Cheetos.
But I guess I ate too many hot Cheetos.
and it ripped. It ripped something in my stomach open, so I puked a little.
To Zan, this was just a message to inform his fans that he was in trouble. But to the media and general rap public, this was hilarious, because they took it as Lil Xan overdosing on hot Cheetos, which sounds ridiculous. And the news spread like wildfire among established media sites, being posted everywhere. Some took it seriously, while others like Anthony Fantano, who already was very critical of Zan's music, mocked him.
Apparently rapper or whatever, Lil Xan, has been reported to have gotten sick after eating way too many Flamin' Hot Cheetos. Mr. Xanadu was in the midst of packing up for his oncoming North American tour when I guess he found himself coughing up a little bit of blood after a Hot Cheetos binge.
But what did Xan think of all of this? Well, he was in shock that an Instagram story he posted was being picked up by major news outlets out of context.
Hey yo, there's real shit happening in the world, like to report, but it. Lil Xan hospitalized for hot Cheeto overdose. This is the shit we need to be covering, guys.
And honestly, no matter what you think of him, you gotta agree with him here. Apparently, he didn't even see it until the next day when a friend showed him the headlines.
And then the next day I'm at the airport and one of my friends shows me his phone and it's Lil Xan overdoses. They use the word overdose. I never said the word overdose,
Right.
but shout out to that blog, whoever it was that.
But hey, at least he got free hot Cheetos.
People started giving me hot Cheetos everywhere I'm at, and I'm like, oh my god.
But it wasn't all bad, because his good friend Adam22 would come to his defense, calling out major media outlets for reporting something that he knew would be ridiculed.
All of these journalistic institutions that are supposed to do serious work. They're supposed to be reporting on serious things. This is...
As well as jumping to darker conclusions.
As Lil Xan tends to do, as this professional troll known as Lil Xan tends to do, he posted a picture of him in an ambulance. And then immediately after, you know, everybody obviously is jumping to their conclusions and they're just thinking, oh, well, of course, Lil Xan must have suffered some sort of drug overdose.
Luckily for him, later on, Xan would once again explain what happened very shortly after the incident.
You had people scared, you had your fans scared a little bit the other night. Tell me what actually went down.
You're referencing the Cheeto thing.
Cheetogate.
2018.
Yo, let's ban these things. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, yes, but you see, at the time of the hospitalization, not really. Despite multiple major media outlets not taking Xan seriously, Xan was actually in really bad shape. It all began when Xan was eating too many Cheetos along with other junk food and his stomach wasn't feeling too well.
I'm a big Cheeto fan, a hot Cheeto fan. My stomach's still not completely better yet. I literally was just one bag. It was just one bag, ate it. I was drinking soda. I have a really poor diet. And next thing I know, for 4 days, like I was like feeling really bad, like I don't know, just stomach aches. Then,
however, this was probably normal for him, so he ate another bag of Cheetos.
I ate another bag of the chili lemon ones.
This is what caused him to vomit and really scare him because there literally was blood.
And literally just I vomited a little, and obviously that scared the.
So he had to go to the hospital, which is what the whole situation was about.
So you went to the hospital?
Yeah, they did a little ultrasound. And they were like, "Oh, you tore some up," and they were like, "What?" And I was like, "They're like, what do you think is wrong with the Cheetos?" And they you know, so.
And what's funny is that Xan still loved Cheetos afterwards.
Everyone loves Flamin' Hot Cheetos, man.
I love Flamin' Hot Cheetos, but it's just, man, my stomach still hurts.
However, Xan still couldn't convince the interviewers that he was actually hospitalized because of the Cheetos. One, because the sound of that is just crazy, but also because Xan had a known substance abuse issue.
Let me just ask Ash just to confirm that it was just Cheetos. It wasn't, you weren't drinking, you weren't doing anything else, putting anything else in your body.
But you see, little did the public know, or did any proper news reporter, but hot Cheetos are actually known to cause these exact symptoms. It's just very rare. According to Medical Daily, pediatricians claim that Flamin' Hot Cheetos send multiple people to the emergency room every year. The snack's Flamin' Hot seasoning can lead to severe abdominal pain, ulcers, erosions. In fact, according to Dr. Nicole Avina, the snacks not only affect the stomach, but can also cause negative changes in the brain. So it actually wasn't wild to think that Xan went to the hospital due to how many hot Cheetos he was consuming. And the fact that his diet was also probably horrible. So Xan confirmed one last time it was in fact hot Cheetos that made him sick.
It was nothing else, it was literally just Cheetos. I just think it's hilarious like how the world has taken to this.
And ended it by eating some hot Cheetos.
Have you sworn off Flamin' Hot Cheetos? Because I got a bag of Flamin' Hot Cheetos right here for you, man.
You see this?
Any chance I can get you to eat one Flamin' Hot Cheeto on camera just to prove to the world that you're alright?
Yeah. I got y'all.
He's all right, guys. He's all right.
We good, guys.
Kind of weird, but he looked happy and healthy, so good for him. Our final disturbing moment is something that's part of a much larger story. Gang activities.
You see me, I invite you to test my gangster. But straight up, nobody want this problem.
Conspiracies.
And what I did was being smart and realized that God put me there to cut my grass so I could see the snakes in my grass.
Murder plots and betrayals.
When I saw the person kidnapping me, I knew who he was, so I'm like, oh, it's over.
And if you're updated in hip-hop news, you all know exactly and what I'm talking about. The disturbing footage of 6ix9ine getting kidnapped by his own crew. So let's talk about it.
Do you have concerns about your safety?
In the early hours of July 22nd, 2018, at around 4:25 a.m., 6ix9ine, who was at the height of his, let's just say, decorated career, was cruising along the streets of Brooklyn, New York. However, that same early morning, something disturbing would happen. An incident that would change not only 6ix9ine's musical career and his entire life, but also become part of a federal case indicting one of New York's most prominent gangs. It all started on a normal night for 6ix9ine.
I'm coming out the strip club. I go home.
Like I said, normal night. As we've established, it was around the 22nd of July that 6ix9ine's life would be changed forever. At that time, 6ix9ine had just finished working on a music video for a song called Fifi in collaboration with Nicki Minaj and Murda Beatz.
July 22nd, I'm leaving to edit. Me and Nicki on the phone. Me and Nicki are going through the video.
However, you have to understand that Nicki Minaj has a reputation in the music industry as an artist who takes meticulous care of her art. This means that when Nicki Minaj wants something changed with a product she's involved with, you change it no matter what. And that's exactly what happened the night she filmed Fifi with 6ix9ine.
She's like, I don't like this part, can you change it? But I don't have the files and she wants something edited that I don't really know how to do, but my best friend knows how to do it.
Little did Nicki know, this meticulousness would end up being a canon event in 6ix9ine's life.
I'm on the phone with Nicki, she's like, switch this before the release tomorrow. I said, fine. I'm leaving the house, get in the car, we're driving to my friend's house.
So what happened? 6ix9ine was on his way to a friend's house to edit a section of his Fifi music video. That morning, 6ix9ine and his driver, who is named George, headed to a friend's house to have some parts of their recently filmed music video edited as requested by Nicki Minaj.
I'm in the car, I'm calling my best friend, trying to get him to answer the phone so he can open the door. He's not answering, so I tell the driver, hit a U-turn, let's go back, he's not answering.
And while everything seemed chill, things would slowly pick up. If you don't understand what happened here, 6ix9ine's car got crashed into by another car, so his driver stepped out the vehicle and checked out what happened. However, since this happened on the streets of Brooklyn, the accident seemed normal to 6ix9ine and his driver. However, unknown to 6ix9ine, who expected to have a regular morning, a malicious force was coming for him.
So I look at the little side view mirror of the car. When I see a guy coming with a big ass gun, just like hoodied on, running towards my door, my heart dropped to my ass.
What 6ix9ine and his driver thought was just a simple car accident turned out to be a case of robbery. However, this moment was far more disturbing than meets the eye. It wasn't just a simple snatch and go, it was much more personal.
Run it, nigga. Give me everything. Get out. Get out. Get out. Get in the car.
While 6ix9ine assumed that he was getting jumped by some random people, he discovered firsthand that the threat walking slowly and menacingly towards him was someone he most likely did not expect. But who exactly was that person that 6ix9ine saw that made him fear for his life?
Give me your money. Where your money at? Where your money at?
6ix9ine mentioned the name Harv.
You hear me pleading, I'm like, yo, Harv, chill. Like, yo, bro, please, like, chill. Like, I'm sorry. Like, yo, I try to call you. Like, I'm pleading.
You see, Harv was a prominent member of the 9 Trey Gangster Bloods. But what does that have to do with our story? Well, if you don't know by now, 6ix9ine was allegedly a member of the 9 Treys. This meant that 6ix9ine was robbed at gunpoint and threatened by his own blood, figuratively speaking. And unfortunately for 6ix9ine, he knew how Harv operated, which was very bad news for him.
Because I know at this point, nobody's gonna know it's you.
Get in the car. Get in the car. Get in the car. Get in the car. Get in the car.
We're on a dead block intersection, 5 in the morning. All you gotta do is let off 3 shots. Boom, 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 boom. Leave me there.
But wait, you might be thinking to yourself, is this all real? And are we really watching someone get and messed up in 4K? Or is this just another example of 6ix9ine's many publicity stunts to chase clout? Because how can an incident as disturbing as this be caught on camera without any setup, right? It all just seemed too coincidental. But there's actually a really simple yet interesting explanation to this, because there's one person we've been overlooking in this entire story, 6ix9ine's driver, George. And we weren't the only ones who were curious about this, as an interviewer also tried to clarify this particular situation with 6ix9ine.
I just want to clarify one thing about the story and we're going to keep going. You said he left the car to go check on the people. What happened to him?
Now, what does George have to do with the story?
Where is he in relation to the men?
And if you think that George conspired with Harv and that this was all a setup, you'd actually be wrong, very wrong, as 6ix9ine himself would explain.
He didn't know.
The answer is pretty simple and interesting.
He was already cooperating with the government. The car was already bugged. That's why you see video of the kid. The car was bugged.
Yup, even the driver was snitching. 6ix9ine perfectly encapsulated his entire situation with this statement too.
My life is like a movie.
And so that explains why we had the pure uncut footage of this entire disturbing scenario. It's also interesting to note that even early on, the feds had already had a drop on 6ix9ine, and that Harv basically set himself up and his crew in the process with such a rash and evil decision. So now that we know why and how 6ix9ine's entire kidnapping incident was caught in 4K, let's get back to the story. At this point, 6ix9ine already assumed that Harv planned on mugging him and leaving him for dead.
No, you just get in the car. Get in the car. Open it. Open the door. Let me open it.
However, because of Harv's extreme disdain for 6ix9ine, he didn't just plan on robbing and killing him. Harv had more evil and sadistic things he planned to do to 6ix9ine.
Get in the car before I shoot you. So I'm like, damn, if I get in that car, like that. If I get in that car, like it's over. If I run, he's gonna shoot me in the back. What do I do? Alright, I'm gonna get in the car.
So not only did 6ix9ine get robbed at gunpoint by his own supposed brother, he also got kidnapped. Understandably, 6ix9ine wasn't about to get mugged without bargaining for his life, and this was exactly the moment when 6ix9ine fully exposed his true colors to Harv.
Why are you doing all that, man? I want to talk to you. About what? About what? About what?
But the question is, why did Harv try to rob and harm 6ix9ine? Well, for you to fully understand what really happened and how this one incident created a ripple effect that made waves in the music industry and in gang culture for years to come, we have to discuss two people other than 6ix9ine who were crucial to the story, Harv and Shotti. Let's talk about Harv first. As we mentioned previously, Harv was a member of the 9 Trey Gangster Bloods, just like 6ix9ine, allegedly. But despite being in the same gang, Harv had a certain disdain for 6ix9ine, and he also wanted 6ix9ine to be out of the 9 Treys and have the entire gang rid itself of any association with 6ix9ine. That's how much Harv hated 6ix9ine. But again, the question is, why? Well, for one thing, Harv took his gang life and affiliation to the 9 Trey Bloods seriously. And one thing that Harv hated, much like anyone who takes that culture seriously, is when members act in a certain way that breaks the code or norms of the gang, one of which is having a loose tongue, which most gangs generally see as cowardly. And well, when push came to shove, Harv proved exactly why he didn't trust 6ix9ine.
Why you holler at me? What you mean, Shorty? Give me the book.
6ix9ine started yapping, which only furthered Harv's distrust for him.
So why ain't got your number? Because I asked for your number, they told me to change your number. I put it on my daughter's life.
However, Harv did not buy any of 6ix9ine's lies and was quick to call him out. But while you would think this was a simple case of Harv not wanting a rainbow-haired rapper who talked too much in his gang, things were much more complex than that. You see, there was another reason Harv hated 6ix9ine, and it wasn't necessarily 6ix9ine's fault alone. And this is where we introduce another crucial character to the story. Someone who 6ix9ine and Harv mentioned was playing in the kidnapping footage, Shotti. But what role does Shotti play in the story? You see, Shotti was another member of the 9 Treys, and he was the one who saw potential in 6ix9ine. And when I say potential, I mean Shotti saw how much money he could leech off of 6ix9ine, took the opportunity. And so, Shotti became 6ix9ine's manager and was the one who protected 6ix9ine within the gang. Thus, 6ix9ine saw Shotti as his brother. But despite being in the same gang, Harv also did not like Shotti because Harv thought Shotti was a loudmouth who didn't back up his tough talk with action, and Harv was suspicious of this rainbow-haired kid acting like a gangster. However, allegedly, Harv did not simply dislike Shotti for being a loudmouth. The problem was much deeper. You see, Shotti wasn't the only one who saw potential in 6ix9ine. Harv saw it too. However, 6ix9ine chose to associate himself more with Shotti, which of course, Harv did not appreciate.
Why you do me like that, bro?
6ix9ine himself confirmed the blatant politics within the gang, which created the rift between Harv's crew and Shotti's crew.
There was a split, and they were beefing over money. Like, who had me, right? Because I'm generating so much money for the gang that they're like, he chose to be on Shotty's side than Harv's side. I chose Shotty and Harv didn't like that.
Going back to the disturbing footage, Harv had more sinister plans than just exposing 6ix9ine's loose tongue. As I've said, this really wasn't a simple case of a snatch and go. This was a serious kidnapping operation.
Get in the car with us, man. Bye. Bye. Give me the phone. Give me the phone. Get out of here.
Wait. I have to make sure everything good, man. We gonna talk to him. That's it, man.
And to make this operation much more manageable, Harv took 6ix9ine to their car and left George. And while the next parts of this kidnapping case involving 6ix9ine specifically wasn't captured on camera, fortunately, George had the awareness to follow Harv's vehicle and call for some help.
Hello. Hello. Buen día. Necesito que llame a la policía. Acaban de secuestrar a mi hermano. Por favor.
Sadly, while George was scrambling to help, Harv had his mind set on letting their true intentions known to 6ix9ine.
When you get out the car, like, they stop at like an empty street. Like, you get out the car. I'm not getting out the car. Like you don't gotta do this. Like, y'all ain't not getting out the car.
However, despite 6ix9ine's pleas to be spared and his bargaining,
Where the f is everything, man?
off camera, Harv was more or less handling his business with 6ix9ine, as 6ix9ine would discuss.
My head drags me out. When he drags me out, he's recording me. Like, say you not Billy, say you not 9 Trey.
Just to explain for a second, for those who didn't get that, the word Billy is slang for the 9 Trey Gangster Bloods members. But going back to the situation, Harv was intent on getting rid of 6ix9ine in every sense imaginable, one of which was to let the whole world know that 6ix9ine himself was personally renouncing his affiliations with the 9 Treys, and he and Shaw did this in the most brutal way possible.
I ain't 9 Trey, I ain't Billy. They punched me in my face, hit me with the gun, boom, hitting me, boom, 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 boom. All I see is flashes, like flashes. That's how hard they hit me in my eyes.
But the thing was that, at this moment, this wasn't 6ix9ine talking anymore. This was Daniel Hernandez talking to Harv and Shaw. At this point, it was Daniel who's trying to bargain for his life.
Bribed them. I said, yo, I got $100,000. Stay with you. Like, hide me in the basement somewhere, and I'll give you the $100,000.
And of course, $100,000 really sounded like a good proposition for Harv and Shaw. But Harv knew 6ix9ine had more to give, so they reached an agreement. However, 6ix9ine, despite being in a dire situation, having just been robbed, realized something really interesting about his situation.
Remind you, I don't tell them where I live.
So they never knew where you lived.
6ix9ine realized that Harv and Shaw knew exactly where his house was since they were actually driving there. However, according to 6ix9ine, neither Harv nor Shaw or anyone else other than Shotty should have known where 6ix9ine was staying at, since he had already cut ties with them due to the apparent rift between Harv's crew and Shotty's crew.
While I'm telling them, pleading like, you're sorry, they're driving right to the front of my house.
If it wasn't clear before, let me just state the obvious. Someone close to 6ix9ine snitched on him, and you could probably deduce from everything we talked about just who it was. But going back to 6ix9ine's disturbing kidnapping story, they eventually reached his house.
They asked me, who's upstairs? I said, yo, my daughter, my baby mom. They're like, call your baby mom right now.
The baby mom in question was a woman named Sarah.
I'm like, yo, Sarah, look, don't ask no questions. Bring down my jewelry. She's like, all right, for what? I said, Sarah, stop asking questions. Bring my jewelry down right now. All right. Hangs up.
And as the story got deeper, so did 6ix9ine's growing suspicions and ideas about the entire incident. He knew well enough that things were about to get worse for him, his baby mama, and his daughter, if he tried to do anything weird.
I stay in the back seat. Harv stays driving. Shaw gets out, goes, grabs the jewelry, comes back in the car. They said, yo, once we get the jewelry, we're going to let you out. I said, all right.
But as we now know, Harv and Shaw weren't just planning on robbing him and getting him to renounce his ties with the 9 Treys. Harv wanted 6ix9ine to get the full gang treatment in the worst way possible, and 6ix9ine knew about it too.
Once he got in that car with that jewelry and I heard them tires screech, I said, damn, they got the jewelry, they killed me, it's over.
And despite 6ix9ine already giving Harv and Shaw everything they asked him for and more, Harv did not really care about 6ix9ine's life, no matter what and how much 6ix9ine gave to them.
They drive to like a back street behind their house in like Smurf Village. He said, get out the car. I said, I ain't getting out the car.
And no matter how much 6ix9ine bargained and pleaded with them, he knew how Harv conducted his business.
This guy be like two like in Kings County, from what I heard. And I knew what type of guy he was, and I knew Harv was like a demon. Like,
which meant that he had suspicions on how things were about to go down for him.
I said, I ain't getting out the car. Because I know if I get out the car, you're going to shoot me in my back. They said, you don't get out the car, I'm going to shoot you right now. So I said, alright, you're going to shoot me regardless.
Unfortunately for 6ix9ine, Harv wanted nothing more than to get rid of him for once and for all.
So I put one leg out, and I'm like getting out the car slowly like this, like alright bro, just chill. Once I reached like this, like both legs like almost out, I said, yo. They said, yo, come here.
However, despite not really being about that life, 6ix9ine wasn't that out of the loop and was familiar with how gangs handle their business, especially with Harv. When 6ix9ine heard Harv say, come here, he knew exactly how deadly those two words were.
They like, come here, let me tell you something. I already knew what that meant. When you say, come here, let me tell you something, you about to hit me with a hot one.
Now, at that point, with Harv's fingers on the trigger, figuratively and literally, it was over for 6ix9ine. But miraculously enough, 6ix9ine made enough commotion to the point that Harv and Shaw got distracted, which 6ix9ine fully took advantage of.
I just took off. And at this time, I think I'm the fastest kid in the world.
And by that I mean, doing what any rational person in this position would do. He took the chance and did the dash, as fast and as far away from the car as he could. Obviously, Harv didn't plan on that happening, so they chased after 6ix9ine. But somehow, 6ix9ine's luck had yet to run out.
I see a Uber, like a Uber cab driver.
And he escaped Harv and Shaw.
I reach for his back door, I open it. When I open it, I just jump in the backseat and close it. I'm like, drive. Remember, I'm bleeding from my face.
But despite the intensity of that moment, this disturbing story was yet to be over, and 6ix9ine's luck had once again gone tested.
Shut the up, like drop. Why this guy stops right behind the car I just got out of?
Yep, as lucky as 6ix9ine was to escape and miraculously sneak into an Uber driver's car, his traumatic morning was yet to be truly over.
So we had a red light. I said, sir, do not turn your blinkers on. You're gonna make this right.
6ix9ine really meant it when he said,
so my life is like a movie.
Because by some sick twist of fate, the Uber he miraculously snuck into somehow managed to drive right behind Harv.
I see Harv and Shaw, like I'm looking right at him because I'm in the car right behind him.
Showing just how close 6ix9ine really was to meeting his end.
And I'm trying to think, if they know that I'm in this car and they pull out the gun on the driver, he's gonna force me to get out. Like, don't move or we shooting at you.
But obviously, we know in hindsight that 6ix9ine was lucky enough to survive that disturbing encounter with his former allies, quote unquote. Unfortunately for 6ix9ine, despite escaping, Harv and Shaw really gave him a brutal wake-up call of the life he really did not want to live, to the point that 6ix9ine needed medical attention and eventually arrived at a hospital in Long Island, where he got a CAT scan and concussion meds. The beating that he took from the gruesome incident was so serious that the pictures of his injuries were too graphic to show on YouTube. Nevertheless, this disturbing moment caught on camera was one that neither 6ix9ine nor Harv would ever forget, as the incident would become one of the major factors of the demise of several 9 Trey gangster members. As we know now, the kidnapping was far from the last time that 6ix9ine would get involved with the 9 Treys, and the punishment he took from Harv and Shaw was also not the worst thing he'd have to endure due to his affiliation with the 9 Treys. But luckily for 6ix9ine, that was all about to change. Soon after that disturbing moment, the lives of 6ix9ine and the 9 Trey Bloods would be changed forever. For one, Harv and Shaw were caught red-handed kidnapping 6ix9ine on a vehicle bugged by the feds, which just made things much worse for them. Other than that, Harv and Shaw betrayed 6ix9ine.
These are my people. Like, how many people I beefed with in 2018? I beefed with the whole West Coast. I beefed with the Houston. I beefed with Chicago. Did I ever get kidnapped by Chicago or Texas or West Coast?
Which meant that for 6ix9ine, he really had no choice but to sell them out when the time came. Not really, but he didn't care.
What I did wasn't snitching. What I did was being smart and realized that God put me there to cut my grass so I could see the snakes in my grass.
And because of this incident, which 6ix9ine deemed as betrayal, alongside a couple of other horrible things that the 9 Treys had apparently done to him, such as Shoddy allegedly stealing money from him.
I talked to the guy, I'm like, yo, how many shows you got? He said, yo, I got most of the shows on this thing. I said, all right, how much? I said, what? He said, yeah, you just did these couple of dates, but we didn't lowball you. It's 3.6 million.
For the 15 dates?
For 15 dates. I said, so it's not 300,000?
Wow, what the hell? As well as the fact that Shotty allegedly slept with 6ix9ine's baby mama while they were still together and while he was still managing 6ix9ine.
You know where my heart fell? You my right hand man, homie. Like you're my best friend. Like you really my best friend. Like you. And at that moment I'm just like, the man right in the other room is sleeping with my girl.
Which is honestly really messed up in my opinion because of all those things I've mentioned. 6ix9ine really felt like his hand was forced by the 9 Treys. Eventually, 6ix9ine reached out to his fans with some really important news.
What's up, everybody? So I'm letting everybody know that I canceled my whole tour. The American dates is not happening. I fired everybody in my team. I got no manager, I got no booking agent, no PR, no public. I don't got nobody on my team. It's just me.
And just like that, 6ix9ine officially renounced his ties with the 9 Treys, and he did it on Instagram, of all places. However, that wasn't the end of the story. On November 18th, 2018, 3 days after 6ix9ine broke ties with the 9 Trey Bloods, 6ix9ine and 5 other 9 Trey members were arrested by the ATF. Shotty, Melmurda, Fubanga, Ish, and Crippy, due to their personal involvement in 2 criminal cases, one being a robbery that took place on April 3rd, 2018, which saw several members of the 9 Treys trespass, robbed at gunpoint, and threatened some people from Jay Prince's Rap-A-Lot Records in the lobby of their Times Square offices, and a shooting incident at the Barclays Center on April 21st, 2018. As for 6ix9ine, on the 1st of February of 2019, he pleaded guilty to 9 charges and was due to be sentenced on January 24th of 2020. Initially, 6ix9ine was facing 47 years in prison due to his involvement in those cases. However, on the 16th of February 2019, 6ix9ine would commit a controversial and divisive act that would forever etch his name in hip-hop, although it would be for the wrong reasons. On that fateful day, a life-saving offer was offered to 6ix9ine in the form of a plea deal, which revealed that 6ix9ine could avoid jail time in exchange for his willingness to snitch on the 9 Trey Bloods. 6ix9ine was offered a chance to save his own skin, but would do so at the cost of breaking one of the most sacred rules of the gang: no snitching. Which of course he didn't care because he had denounced the gang.
I knew what I was signing up for. I knew everything. I knew the guys I was rolling with, right? What I thought I knew, right? So yeah. I knew what I was getting into.
Unfortunately for the 9 Treys, in September of 2019, 6ix9ine did just that. When his trial commenced, 6ix9ine, feeling all the pain and suffering that the members of the 9 Treys had inflicted on him, did just what his instincts told him.
I had no plans on snitching. If I got faced with 47 years and these guys was loyal and these guys was for me and these guys was my brothers and they showed me a bond that wouldn't break, I would have no choice because what's my excuse? What is my go-to?
He snitched on all of his former 9 Trey gang members. This act obviously destroyed any and all street cred that 6ix9ine had, if he had any in the first place. But despite him losing all of that, 6ix9ine knew deep down that any result of his decision would be better than spending 47 years in prison trying to protect the people that robbed him, violated him, and betrayed him. On December 18th of 2019, because he snitched, 6ix9ine was sentenced to only 2 years. That's like a month if you compare it to the 47 years he initially was facing. And of course, 6ix9ine would eventually get the freedom he snitched for. On the 2nd of April 2020, 6ix9ine got released from prison early and served the rest of his sentence on house arrest, which ended on August 2nd of 2020. See you in the next video and check out my channel for more videos like this.